Step into the shoes of our main guy, an absolute unbothered legend who just hit the ultimate 10-year rewind glitch. After getting totally wiped out by a savage demon boss named Wrath, he respawns back in his college dorm, radiating pure exhaustion and desperately needing a therapy session. While the background NPCs and trust fund brats like Gong Ting are running their mouths about their aggressively average stats, our dude is out here casually swallowing S-tier monsters whole without even trying, and effortlessly swinging twin blades worth way more than the university's entire tuition fund. Welcome to a reality packed with paranormal chaos, crooked grading scales, and the most brain-scratching, heavy-hitting beatdowns you will ever witness. Will our triple threat powerhouse cancel the end of the world, or is he just going to devour the whole storyline? We kick things off with our hero jolting awake, rocking a taped-up nose. He bolts upright, staring at his heavily wrapped hands like he has seen a ghost. "Wait, am I actually breathing?" he mutters. Scanning the dead-silent dorm, he drags himself over to the glass. Peering out, he spots the massive campus medical center looming over the courtyard, with hordes of clueless students just strolling by. His brain short-circuits. How is this possible when his last memory is the literal apocalypse? Catching his reflection, the crazy truth hits him. He has time-traveled exactly a decade back to his freshman era. Suddenly, a glowing blue hologram pops up right in his face. The interface flashes. Gluttony Fusion Protocol. Mastered. Snatching the smart device off his desk, he confirms the impossible. It is May 16th, 2157. He just stands there, completely frozen, letting the neon text burn into his vision. The math clicks in his head. He has officially spawned exactly 36 months before the ultimate evil touches down. Flash forward to 2160. An absolute menace, known as Demon King Wrath, drops from the sky. Gigantic, glowing violet appendages rip right through the concrete, leveling the metropolis. Wrath shatters the underworld barrier, inviting his monstrous squad to crash the human realm. Earth instantly turns into a blazing, post-apocalyptic wasteland. A shadowy figure hunches over the rubble, clutching a cold, unmoving corpse. Si Chen vividly recalls watching his entire universe burn to ash during that slaughter. Snapping back to reality, he stares deep into his bare hands. His fingers curl into a tight grip, while a sinister crimson aura flares in his eyes. He swears on his life to obliterate Wrath and keep those hellish portals permanently sealed. The holographic menu hovers dead center. It brightly confirms his gluttony fusion is fully unlocked. Si Chen reaches out, tapping the digital prompt. His personal stat sheet rolls down, flashing his ID and current rank. Sure, he is rocking a solid level 1, but every single base stat, from brute force to agility, is completely maxed out at 100. He drops a lore bomb. In this universe, grabbing a superpower is a crazy 1 in 10,000 lottery win. A slick diagram breaks down the meta builds, spotlighting cosmic spellcasters, pyro brawlers, and high-voltage rogues. Our guy is currently grinding his credits at the ultra-elite National Academy for the Awakened. This academy is a massive, futuristic complex built solely to forge gifted rookies into absolute lethal weapons. Si Chen locks his gaze onto a glowing emblem repping the lightning assassin path. That is his exact loadout from his past life. Did his inner voltage jumpstart way ahead of schedule? He squeezes his palm, and raw, golden thunder crackles across his skin. The interface chimes, signaling a live class evolution. Before it finishes, his dorm door swings open, and in walks Ma Long. Rocking thick frames and a cozy brown knit, a pop-up tags this guy as a tragic E-tier botanical bard. Ma Long practically drops his jaw, seeing his buddy vertical, reminding us Si Chen got completely folded in a brutal beatdown just yesterday. He tentatively pokes his friend's shoulder, only to realize every single bruise and broken bone has miraculously vanished. Si Chen stares back, his heart heavy with the memory of Ma Long getting brutally wiped out during the initial wave of the demon onslaught. Pushing his spectacles up his nose, the nerd stammers, "Did you somehow get a massive power buff?" Then pure panic strikes his face. The brutal placement exams are literally kicking off, shoving our MC toward the exit, Ma Long yells that they need to start grinding for this evaluation immediately. The duo cuts across the quad under a blinding golden hour sky, passing crowds of NPCs playing casual sports. Si Chen sweeps his eyes over the lively bunch and casually drops. It has been a hot minute since I have seen actual breathing humans. Ma Long shoots him a highly disturbed, "What is wrong with you?" glare. Gazing up into the clouds, Si Chen's mind flashes back to the blood-soaked, crumbling skylines of his old reality. He calculates his next move. He needs to speed-run his leveling, but he knows the top dog factions gatekeep all the good raid zones, making it a nightmare for solo players to grind XP. Pulling up his internal dashboard, he admires that beautiful triple-digit 100 next to every single stat. He scans the tier list, stretching all the way from trash level E up to God tier S. He mentally notes that 99% of these kids will be hard stuck in E class forever. Out of nowhere, while they are just vibing, a stray leather ball rockets through the air, absolutely smoking Ma Long right in the face. He hits the pavement with a brutal smack, whining in pure agony. Si Chen glances over, spotting a crew of beefed-up jocks lounging on the concrete bleachers. One dude, rocking a black tank top and dog tags, flashes a toxic grin. He laughs, totally mind-blown that these two bounce back so fast from their last brutal beatdown. He turns to his squad, hyping up how these two are basically human punching bags. The head honcho glares down with major main character energy, demanding to know why they showed up without his free cases of energy drinks. Ma Long totally caves. He ducks his head, instantly but Si Chen? He just stands there, completely unbothered, one hand chilling in his pocket. He grabs Ma Long's shoulder, telling him to back off. Instead, he locks eyes with the bullies and demands a direct apology. Staring at this toxic crew triggers a dark flashback. He remembers this exact psycho shoving his head deep into a flooded sink. Past Si Chen thrashes around, desperately choking for air, while a horrified Ma Long cowers on the floor. Ma Long reaches out, begging for mercy, but the head bully just smirks, twisting the truth by claiming he is doing him a solid to trigger his hidden powers. The rest of the gang just blocks the door, laughing their heads off as Si Chen finally blacks out and collapses to the tiles. Bored with their twisted game, the squad ditches him. Ma Long scrambles over, desperately screaming his best friend's name. That brutal memory of absolute human trash fades, snapping Si Chen right back to the campus showdown. Gong Cheng looks completely thrown off by this newfound confidence. While Ma Long shakes and sobs in the background, the bully fires up his aura. His right arm morphs into a massive, glowing green boulder, typical rank E brawler, but Si Chen just locks onto him, his own eyes flashing a dangerous crimson. Si Chen knows the ugly truth. This clown only acts tough because his big bro runs the entire student council. A crowd of randoms gathers from a safe distance, eagerly pointing fingers at the duo. Whispers echo around the track, branding them the biggest losers on campus. Hearing the hype, Gong Cheng completely loses his cool. He launches that massive rock fist straight at Si Chen's face. Yet, Si Chen does not even flinch. He casually raises one arm. Bam! He parries the heavy strike, sparking a blinding flash and a deafening crack. Si Chen has not moved a single inch. Gong Cheng yanks his arm back, wincing in pure agony. The crowd loses its collective mind, stunned that a supposed zero just tanked a superhuman strike. Si Chen remains ice cold, while Gong Cheng screams absolute murder. Behind them, Ma Long looks like he just saw a ghost. Gritting his teeth, the bully spits out that Si Chen is nothing but garbage, but Si Chen simply glances down at his own hands. Wild, neon yellow lightning starts dancing across his knuckles. It is the perfect moment to test drive his insane new abilities. A holographic system window pops up in midair, flashing the words, "Job switching." A second later, it locks in, reading, "Job switch complete." Si Chen is officially a level 1 electric assassin. Violent waves of golden thunder explode from his core, turning his eyes into blazing suns. His digital stat panel goes completely crazy, his speed and power doubling, then tripling. Ma Long's jaw practically hits the floor. He stammers out, begging to know when his bro secretly. Feeling totally disrespected, Gong Cheng snaps. He triggers a heavy skill called Indestructible Demon Armor, bulking up his boulder arm to monstrous proportions. Vicious rock spikes burst from his skin. Screaming that he is about to end this kid's whole career, he lunges in for a brutal haymaker. Si Chen moves like an absolute glitch. He dips straight under that clunky rock fist with terrifying speed. Dropping low, he channels pure, crackling electricity into his fist and drives a vicious uppercut right into Gong Cheng's jaw. The kinetic impact literally launches the heavyweight bully flying backward through the air like a rag doll. The spectators absolutely panic, clutching their heads in total disbelief. Ma Long is just frozen, staring wide-eyed at the impossible. Gong Cheng faceplants hard, violently scraping across the asphalt. Covered in his own blood, he pathetically screams for his goons to back him up. But his silver-haired sidekick is totally paralyzed, dripping in nervous sweat and shivering like a leaf. Si Chen dominates the center of the arena, surging with violent golden sparks. Desperate, Gong Cheng launches into the sky for one last massive dive bomb attack. Si Chen casually reaches up. With just one hand, he snatches the bully's wrist right out of the air. Wild static explodes where they connect. Si Chen locks eyes with the absolute failure, his own gaze burning with predatory golden energy. He looks right through him, dropping the cold, hard truth. You are way. Without breaking a sweat, Si Chen violently slams him down, triggering a catastrophic lightning blast. The insane impact sets off a massive Gong Cheng's limp body violently bounces off the pavement, crashing hard into the concrete stadium seating. The tyrant is officially out cold. Smashed into the cratered bleachers, he is left bruised, broken, and completely humiliated. Dropping to his knees on the turf, Ma Long is left drenched in sweat, screaming his lungs out. Si Chen stands dead still, eyes locked on the crimson staining his knuckles. With a flick of his wrist, he pulls up his glowing holographic status screen. The interface flashes, level 1. But right below that, every single stat is maxed out at 100 solid points. It clicks for him. Sure, his lightning-laced assassin build absolutely shreds basic mobs. But his actual numbers have not budged an inch since the brawl. If he wants to level up, grinding the usual way is not going to cut it anymore. Sizzling yellow sparks erupt from his palm, instantly forming a deadly, crackling lightning blade. He stalks toward the wrecked Gong Cheng. The whole courtyard freezes in absolute terror, while Ma Long frantically yells at him to chill out. Tuning out the noise, Si Chen towers over the battered bully. His pupils flare with a wild, electric gold as a dark thought crosses his mind. Does he really have to tap into the ruthless brutality of his past life just to scale up? He violently yanks Gong Cheng up by the collar, pressing that searing spark blade right against the guy's neck. Suddenly, heels click against the pavement. It is Ling Yu, the blonde, icy vice president of the student council, stepping onto the scene. She orders him to back off, claiming he has already sent a clear enough message. Si Chen glares at her, his face totally unreadable, before finally dropping the punk. Gong Cheng scrambles to his feet and bolts like his life depends on it, leaving the paralyzed crowd totally shook. Whispers echo through the yard. Nobody is ever crossing Si Chen again. As Si Chen and Ma Long head out, Ling Yu just stands there, watching their backs with a low-key, mysterious smirk. Cut to the dorms later that night. Ma Long is completely losing his mind, violently waving his arms as he hypes up his roommates. He is going off about how Si Chen unlocked this insane lightning aura and basically soloed the entire gang. But his roomies, Shang Zhou and Shang Yu, they are both stuck at E rank, and they are not buying a single word of it. Shang Zhou playfully shoves Ma Long's head, telling him to stop capping. His logic? If Si Chen was actually that overpowered, he would not be out there doing basic cardio like a total noob. They literally think the bullies beat Ma Long so badly that his brain is just glitching out. Flexing his own power, Shang Zhou casually summons a pulsing orb of crimson energy in his hand. He boasts about being a nucleus mage, basically the only real fighter in the room. Checking himself out in the mirror with a cocky grin, He sneers that Si Chen is way too flimsy to play the assassin role. He quickly reminds the squad that the ultimate placement exams are tomorrow, dropping them straight into the E-rank demon zone. Meanwhile, a massive tearing rift of roaring orange flames rips open between two ancient stone columns. Stepping right out of the inferno is Gong Ting, a light-haired powerhouse radiating absolute authority. Ling Yu shadows his steps, as background students immediately bow their heads. Off to the side, Gong Cheng is waiting. He looks absolutely wrecked. Head, nose, and arms completely mummified in heavy bandages. Trembling, he looks up at his big brother. He starts whining, claiming that Si Chen publicly humiliated him in front of the whole academy. Gong Ting stares down at his pathetic younger brother with dead cold eyes, casually swearing that he will erase the problem himself. Fast forward to a lavish dining room. Gong Ting slices into a rare steak with surgical precision, while Ling Yu briefs him. She breaks down the stats. Less than 10 students in the entire academy have broken into the D-rank tier. She points out that regular kids just do not have his VIP access to demon farming zones. Smash cut to Si Chen, pushing through a massive torrential midnight downpour. Drenched in a heavy blue windbreaker, he is hauling an insane 100 kilograms of dead weight. He is grinding out a brutal 20-kilometer marathon through the storm. Rain and sweat blur together as they slide off his jaw, his entire focus locked onto pacing his ragged breaths. In his mind, it is simple. Without an absolute tank of a physical body, his crackling assassin abilities will literally tear him. His vision flashes back to the apocalyptic wasteland of the year 2160. Colossal, nightmare purple tentacles rip through the sky, totally flattening skyscrapers. In the ruins, a past Si Chen collapses in the pouring rain, desperately clutching his sister's lifeless body, a victim of the merciless Demon King wrath. Snapping back to reality, Si Chen halts in the downpour, his eyes burning a dangerous crimson. He vows out loud. His #1 mission is to obliterate wrath and rewrite the end of the world. Suddenly, his phone buzzes through his soaked pocket. The caller ID flashes. It is his sister, Si Yun. Jamming a damp earbud in, he picks up, standing frozen on the pitch-black running track. Her bubbly voice cuts through the static. She asks why he spammed her with calls all day, explaining she was completely locked in at a competition, and her battery totally died. She eagerly hypes up that if she bags the prize money, they can finally cover their rent. Si Chen stares blankly at the wet pavement, struck dead silent. The memories hit hard, how desperately he prayed for a second chance to fix everything. Catching his silence, Si Yun nervously asks if it is pouring over there and why he is acting so quiet. A heavy, bittersweet smile crosses his face. "It is nothing, sis," he whispers into the storm. He confesses that he literally just needed to hear her voice. Si Yun is totally thrown off. She reminds him they just chatted 2 days ago. Signing off, she tells him to hang tight for some massive updates. Staring up at the pitch-black sky, Si Chen pivots and bursts into a sprint. He pushes himself, muttering that he still has to crush 3 more laps. 8 hours deep into the past, he drags himself back to his dorm. Stepping into the shower, Si Chen glares at his hazy reflection through the thick steam. He realizes this younger, fragile physique is way weaker than his peak form, but he is slowly locking in and making it his own. Catching his breath later, Si Chen chills on the edge of his mattress, draped in a sleek black robe. He stews over the brutal grind of leveling up, when the elite guilds have all the demon zones completely gate-kept. How is he supposed to farm mobs now? And what exactly is the hidden catch behind this insane gluttony power? Just as he drifts off, a glowing crimson system prompt suddenly slices through the pitch-black room. A digital progress bar materializes, reading, "System booting." The second it maxes out, the interface blinks, "Gluttony." System start. Out of nowhere, Si Chen is free-falling through a psychedelic abyss, swirling with neon pink and blood red. Twisting flawlessly in midair, he sticks a superhero landing on one knee across a crimson, mirror-like ocean. Gazing upward, a colossal, thorn-wrapped spire pierces the violent violet heavens. He questions how on earth he got dragged into this twisted dimension while catching some sleep. Staring down the imposing fortress dominating the twilight sky, deeply menacing snarls echo from the shadows. Hulking, bone-white beasts with exposed skulls and piercing neon blue eyes rise from the blood-red waves. The interface flags them as E-rank. The demonic mutts close in, viciously baring their fangs. Crackling yellow voltage instantly surges around the right fist of Si Chen. He glares at the pack while his core abilities boot up, whispering, loading, switching class. It hits him. He is trapped straight inside a demon lair. The transition locks in, transforming him into a ruthless lightning assassin. His hair whips wildly as his gaze ignites with blinding golden electricity. Raw static erupts across his entire frame. Without warning, 3 death hounds vault at his throat simultaneously. Moving at blinding hyperspeed, Si Chen cleaves straight through the beasts with his bare hands. One hound's bony skull instantly explodes into jagged shrapnel on impact. A translucent pop-up chimes in, confirming he just bagged 3 death forest drops. Smirking, Si Chen mentally notes that these E-rank scrubs are absolute fodder. He watches in awe as 4 consecutive pop-ups for plus 52 experience points flood his vision. A massive, radiant level-up banner materializes above him. His player profile refreshes, bumping him straight to level 2. The realization kicks in. This hidden zone is the ultimate cheat code for speedrunning his power scale. He pulls up his holographic stats. Sitting at level 2, every single one of his core attributes has spiked by a solid 5 points. A wicked grin spreads across his face. Suddenly, a towering boss entity materializes at his back. It is a gargantuan hound, sporting a bone-chilling skull face and blazing crimson eyes. The titan unhinges its jaw, flashing razor-sharp fangs. Si Chen whips around, unleashing a brutal wave of golden lightning. He cleanly severs the beast's neck, sending a massive geyser of blood splattering across the screen. An alert confirms he just banked a juicy 320 experience points from the execute. Another radiant level-up banner flashes into view. Si Chen hits level 3. A victory prompt tallies his epic loot, 18 Death Forest fangs and a super rare Death Forest crystal. Pulling up his menu again, he sees his speed stat has skyrocketed to 330. He calculates that alpha bosses drop significantly more experience points than standard mobs. Absolutely hyped at his insane progression rate, he stands victorious over the massive carcass. A blood-red system prompt hovers over the hound's remains. The text boldly flashes, devourable. Si Chen stares at the interface, totally stunned. Is this the actual, broken mechanic behind his gluttony system? He extends his right palm toward the dead beast, and a blinding fusion of crimson and white energy erupts from his skin. A colossal swirling red vortex opens above the monster, aggressively sucking the massive corpse right into the void. Si Chen fiercely clenches his fist, while the chaotic red aura whips around his body. A system alert chimes. Finished. A holographic card depicting the fallen boss materializes right in his face. This card hard unlocks a brand new passive called Frost Physique. It gifts him total immunity to freezing conditions and buffs all his defensive stats in sub-zero climates. Mind absolutely blown, Si Chen realizes the entire monstrous titan was just condensed into gripping the glowing, neon blue artifact. His expression shifts into a dead serious stare. It finally clicks. He can literally absorb his defeated enemies and forge them into brand new classes for his own arsenal. This is the absolute dominance of the Demon King Lan Yu. In this reality, everyone is locked into a single class with hard-coded weaknesses. That is, the unbreakable law of their universe. But somehow, Si Chen is now dual-wielding 2 overpowered digital cards, Lightning Assassin and Frost Cloud Warrior. He is literally hacking the system with 2 simultaneous classes. Staring into the abyss, the realization hits him. If he just keeps devouring these monsters. This guy just unlocked a cheat code. The power to absorb. Si Chen glares at the colossal, spike-covered monolith dominating the horizon. His mind races. Why was he handed this god-tier ability? And what dark secrets is this cursed spire hiding? Suddenly, a crushing aura slams into him, freezing him in his tracks. A nightmare materializes from an explosive blast of violet hellfire. a gargantuan broadsword strapped across its spine. The beast growls, its voice echoing like thunder. "I've been waiting for you, Sitchin, for an eternity." In a world where awakened fighters are ranked from garbage E tier all the way to legendary S class, Sitchin's mind flashes back to a brutal memory, getting launched through the air like a rag doll by an overwhelming shockwave. Soaked in crimson, his body violently convulses as agonizing groans rip. He remembers the sheer hell of scraping his way to S class in his past life. It nearly tore his soul apart. Snapped back to reality, Sitchin gasps for air, his lungs burning. Gripping a blade crackling with fierce golden lightning, reality hits him hard. His current stats are stuck at a pathetic D rank. Meanwhile, the monstrosity towers over a sinister ocean of blood-red sludge. This isn't just any mob. It's a literal S-class apex predator, dual-wielding massive glowing... How the hell does this thing know his name? Before Sitchin can process the panic, the beast unleashes a sweeping slash with its colossal scimitar. Sitchin barely ghost steps out of the kill zone. But he's not fast enough. A brutal strike crushes into his ribcage, tearing a visceral scream from his lungs as he crash lands face first into the crimson mire. Towering over his shattered body, the entity sneers. "Still fighting back, little bug?" Sitchin is absolutely battered, hanging by a thread. Glaring up at the Titan, Sitchin realizes the sick truth. This freak wants to break him into a loyal pet. The boss demands Sitchin remain trapped here forever as the tower's watchdog. It actually calls this eternal prison sentence an absolute honor. Sitchin locks eyes with the demon, his gaze burning with untamed defiance. "I'd rather rot than be your guard dog," he spits out. In a flash of pure malice, an arc of violet energy rips through the void. A gruesome geyser of crimson erupts from Sitchin's shoulder. He stares blankly at his pulverized flesh. Enraged by the rejection, the monstrosity levels its pulsating dark blade right between... "I've shown you mercy only because you're the sole human capable of breaching this domain," the beast roars, as nightmarish, spectral skulls shatter the surface of the bloody waters surrounding them. Stranded in this absolute hellscape, Sitchin watches as an oppressive, suffocating purple aura, glowing holographic system prompts frantically flood his vision. The boss's strength and vitality are skyrocketing off the charts. Gravity outright breaks as colossal boulders levitate into a swirling vortex around the beast. The Overlord glares down, dropping a brutal final ultimatum. Submit and serve, or get completely obliterated into bloody dust. Gritting his teeth so hard they might crack, Sitchin snarls his final answer. "I choose to slaughter you." Erupting into a blinding blur of golden electricity, Sitchin launches himself like a ballistic missile. The boss wildly arcs its massive twin blades, laughing at Sitchin's suicidal charge. Shockwaves pulverize the floating debris as human and monster violently collide dead center in the desolate ruins. Amidst the chaotic flurry of sparks and steel, Sitchin's eyes track every single micro-movement, intensely downloading the beast's attack algorithms. He spots the fatal flaw. There's exactly a 0.4-second lag in the monster's windup before those colossal amethyst swords drop. Locking onto the subtle pivot of the beast's wrist, Sitchin reads the trajectory like an open book. He vaults into the sky, effortlessly evading the lethal, glowing cleave. Bingo! Another glaring blind spot locked in, a 0.2-second recovery animation right after the colossal strike lands. For that microscopic fraction of time, this invincible titan is completely wide open. Channeling every ounce of his golden static into one lethal strike, Sitchin dives in point blank. He drives his lightning-charged fist straight toward the monster's exposed sternum. A catastrophic shockwave of pure voltage detonates as he tries to rip right through the creature's heart. Instantly, a glowing red system alert flashes over the boss's head. Status effect: paralyzed. But Sitchin isn't stupid. He knows his current stats can't one-shot an S-class god. This stun is just his ultimate getaway ticket. He pops his ultimate evasion skill, Lightning God Phase. Blinding solar flare electricity engulfs his entire body, skyrocketing his agility by 10 times. He tears across the battlefield at Mach speed, rushing frantically toward a faint... He's dead set on that beacon, being the portal out of this nightmare. Sitchin launches himself in a desperate leap of faith, but instantly, the glowing exit evaporates into thin. He crashes hard onto the blood-soaked terrain, mind blown in absolute disbelief. Suddenly, a cataclysmic eruption of shadowy violet force detonates right behind. Slithering out of the thick black smoke, the Overlord chuckles darkly. It mocks Sitchin, revealing that the escape route was nothing but a cheap hologram, and this twisted dimension, it's no ordinary demon realm. Shedding its disguise, the beast unleashes its ultimate, terrifying true form, the Purgatory Rakshasa, an elite S-class, one-star sovereign. The demonic sovereign peers deeply into Saichin's soul, whispering that he is the absolute key to their salvation. Saichin just stares back, his pupils dilate. It clicks. That terrifying silhouette is burned into his brain. This exact demonic form belonged to none other than the legendary Demon King Lan Yu from his previous timeline. His mind snaps back to the apocalyptic war of his past, a ravaged wasteland, choked by blazing hellfire explosions and blinding streaks of golden voltage. In that historic final stand, his nemesis was glitching reality, seamlessly swapping between god-tier classes. Suddenly, the memory shifts as a grotesque, twisting mass of toxic green vines violently sprouts, covered in a cluster of glowing blood. And then, the ultimate horror descends. An agonizingly radiant humanoid entity manifests, haloed by a floating ring of hyper-glowing celestial orbs. Looking back at the Rakshasa standing before him right now, it's an exact match. The identical twisted horns, the exposed skeletal ribcage, and that same chilling aura of crackling blue energy. It suddenly hits Si Chen. He's staring down the raw, unfiltered manifestation of the most terrifying demon he's ever crossed paths with. The crazy part? This entire dimension is literally nested inside his own body, all thanks to Gluttony's insane power. The Rakshasa flashes a wicked grin, tipping his hat to Si Chen's sharp instincts. "You've earned it, kid," the demon rumbles, declaring him finally worthy of uncovering the tower's darkest secret. Out of nowhere, a blinding gold key topped with a massive, blood-red jewel materializes in midair. The system pings, flagging it as the triple S rank key of the void. The lore drop confirms. It's the one and only bypass to unlock the demonic tower. Snatching it in his razor-sharp claws, the Rakshasa drops some heavy lore about the previous Demon King, Lan Yu, who went on an absolute rampage, swallowing up countless top-tier fiends back in the day. He drops are still locked up tight inside that very tower. Without missing a beat, the Purgatory Rakshasa holds out the glowing golden key. Si Chen snags the key of the void, his eyes narrowing as he demands to know why this absolute beast is suddenly playing nice. The Rakshasa doesn't hold back. His voice drips with venom as he recounts how the other demon kings absolutely butchered his entire bloodline, just to feed their own sick greed. He swears he's been rotting in wait for an eternity, starving for just one shot at payback. Locking eyes with Si Chen, the beast admits that some mysterious figure was dead right. Si Chen really is their last glimmer of hope. Utterly lost, Si Chen frowns, asking who the heck he's talking about. But the Rakshasa just shoots a clawed finger toward the colossal, pitch-black monolith looming in the distance. "Everything you're hunting for is buried in there," the demon growls. Without warning, the Rakshasa erupts in a blinding flash of blue and white aura. His massive form starts crumbling away, scattering into glowing dust. "Take my power," he echoes, his voice fading. "Make those bastard demon kings bleed for what they did." He commands Si Chen to become an absolute force of nature and rip those tower doors wide open, tossing out one final, chilling warning. The nightmares locked inside are utterly feral and won't go down without a bloodbath. As he speaks, menacing shadows of the reigning demon kings flash across the crimson void. The Rakshasa's final order echoes. Si Chen must crush and consume every single one of them if he wants to sit on the throne of this world. The beast's massive skull shatters into shimmering embers, floating weightless in the abyss. As he fades to nothing, the Rakshasa whispers that only someone with unbreakable willpower can wield this chaotic energy. Si Chen just stands there on the blood-red floor, watching the raw purple aura swirl around him. He reaches out, pulling the energy straight into his veins. Bam! A massive holographic alert pops up. Devouring level up. A surge of blinding yellow power explodes around Si Chen, rocketing him straight to level 10. The victory screen drops, hitting him with double the loot, 2 insanely rare drops called Rakshasa's Underworld Bone. Clenching his glowing fist, Si Chen swears he'll carry the beast's vengeance to the bitter end. The system chimes one last time, devouring complete. A slick, ultra-rare stat card for the Purgatory Rakshasa flickers into it. Reveals this absolute unit was a star warrior, packing devastating abilities like Bone Grip, Ruin, and Triple Gravity Strike. They're gonna choke on their own blood, Si Chen mutters, a dangerous fire in his eyes. Cut to his dorm room. Blinding morning sunlight blasts through the window, completely killing the vibe as a booming voice screams at everyone to get their butts out of bed. He jerks up in his bunk, staring blankly at the floor, while his roommates scramble to throw their gear on, tracing his fingers over his chest and arms. He's completely mind-blown. Every single scrape and bruise from last night's hellish fight is completely wiped away. Was that entire deathmatch just a fever dream? He pops open his status screen to check. Nope, it's real. He's sitting pretty at level 10, and all his core stats have absolutely skyrocketed to 150. The Purgatory Rakshasa card and his massive loot haul are chilling right there in his digital inventory. It hits him. Dude just speedran 9 levels in a single night. He mentally calculates where this insane power spike places him on the official government leaderboards. Suddenly, his roommate, Xiangzhou, struts over, leaning aggressively into Si Chen's personal space. Flashing a toxic, mocking smirk, Xiangzhou casually brings up how Ma Long had hyped Si Chen up as some kind of untouchable powerhouse. Poor Ma Long is just sweating bullets in the corner. Xiangzhou shoots daggers at Si Chen, straight up asking if he thinks he's the new alpha dog of the dorm. Si Chen doesn't even blink, holding his cold gaze until Xiangzhou scoffs, dropping the memo that the official rank test is starting, before storming out. Grabbing a quick bite, the crew heads down the campus steps. Si Chen breaks down the meta for them, explaining how every tier is sliced into low, mid, and high levels. A slick holographic chart pops up to visualize it, highlighting the brutal reality. Most rookies are hard stuck in low E tier, and even the sweatiest upperclassmen cap out at mid D tier. Of course, Xiangzhou had been flexing about being mid E tier, bragging he could solo 10 low tiers at once. Ignoring the ego trip, Ma Long pivots to Si Chen, hyping him up to smash right through to D rank, just to put these arrogant clowns in their place. The squad finally rolls up to a massive outdoor courtyard, dominated by a jumbotron flashing the title, National Awakener University, Official Rank Test. A sea of uniformed students is already swarming the main concourse, the tension in the air thick enough to cut with a knife. Out of nowhere, 2 absolute bullies brutally body-check a scrawny kid straight into the concrete. Ma Long instantly clocks them. They're the lapdogs of the notorious Gong. He warns them to back the heck off. Suddenly, the 2 bullies break into a cold sweat, looking absolutely petrified. They drop down, slamming their foreheads against the concrete, begging, "Big Boss Si Chen!" Xiangzhou and Ma Long are practically paralyzed, their jaws hitting the floor. Xiangzhuo's mind is blown. All those crazy rumors Ma Long spilled about Si Chen's insane power? Totally real. But Si Chen just keeps strolling like it's nothing. He doesn't even spare a glance at the groveling dudes behind him. Out of nowhere, this guy with icy blue-gray hair, Jiang Jian, slides right into Si Chen's path. The dude is a student council officer. Rocking a super arrogant smirk, Jiang Jian brings up that explosive clash Si Chen had with Gong Cheng. He makes sure to point out that Gong Cheng is the little bro of the big man on campus, the student council president, Gong Ting. Ducking behind a brick wall, Ma Long and Xiangzhou whisper in panic. They reveal that Jiang Jian is no joke, a D-rank beast who acts as the president's right-hand man. They're low-key freaking out, terrified that he's locking his sights on Si Chen. Jiang Jian invades Si Chen's personal space, leaning uncomfortably close to his ear. He whispers that he can sniff out an elite powerhouse from miles away. Then comes the brutal roast. He sneers that Si Chen just reeks of absolute trash, calling him a permanent bottom feeder. Shi Chen deadpans, looking him up and down. What are you, a stray dog? Jiang Jian's face flushes tomato red as he snaps, screaming at the top of his lungs. His eyes bug out, teeth gritted in pure rage as he barks, demanding him to repeat that. Right as things are about to go down, Gong Ting steps out from the shadows, commanding him to drop it. He coolly states that he already looked into the whole brawl. Straight up, he admits his own brother was in the wrong, and totally had that beatdown coming. The air grows heavy as Shi Chen and Gong Ting lock eyes. The tension is crazy, both dudes intensely sizing each other up in dead silence. Cut to the massive main stage of the National Awakener University. The announcer grabs the mic, hyping up the crowd that the assessments are kicking off. He orders everyone to line up by their ID numbers. High above the madness, two shadowy figures loom in a slick, towering penthouse office. Gazing out the massive floor-to-ceiling windows, they watch the chaos unfold, wondering if any wild cards will actually show up today. Ling Yo takes a slow sip from a delicate porcelain cup, a chill smirk playing on his lips. Flash forward 1 hour at the university. The booming voice of the announcer echoes across the arena, calling the Ma Long is hype in the crowd, throwing his hands up in support. Xiang Zuo is clearly sweating, but he squares his shoulders and marches toward that crazy glowing blue portal. Passing through the blinding light, Xiang Zuo drops into a pitch-black chamber. Massive, creepy wires dangle from the ceiling, hooking into a giant mechanical heart right in the middle. It's the magical core. Right now, its robotic eye is totally shut. The mission? Blast that core with everything you've got so it can drain your raw energy. Xiang Zuo grinds his teeth and lets out a massive battle cry. He throws his hands skyward, summoning a gigantic sphere of blazing orange fire. He launches a blinding beam of pure flames straight into the mechanical eye. Boom! A massive explosion rocks the room, washing everything in a blur. The machines screech with a heavy electric buzz. Up on the giant digital screen, a massive letter E flashes for his current rank. The head scientist confirms it over the speakers. E rank mid-tier. Down in the pit, Ma Long is losing his mind with hype. He screams that the real show is finally kicking off. Suddenly, the system boots up a brand new tab, the potential stat. Glitchy white lines streak across the neon blue interface, locking into place to form a solid C. The final scoreboard drops. Current power, E rank mid-tier. Maximum ceiling, C rank. Xiang Zuo is totally gutted that he didn't level up. He slumps down on the stone stairs, burying his face in his hands. Ma Long pats his buddy's shoulder, trying to cheer him up. He jokes that the rest of them are probably going to flop even harder. The massive screen flashes again, dropping the squad's final stats. Xiang Yu and Ma Long, stuck at E rank low tier, peaking at C rank potential. Xiang Zuo sits slightly higher at mid-tier, but still hard stuck at C rank potential. The trio just looks absolutely defeated. Out of nowhere, the leaderboard glitches out with a crazy new high score. Some random kid just smashed a D rank with B rank potential. The three roommates are stunned, their jaws literally dropping at the insane flex. A little while later, Jiang Jian struts out of the neon portal. He's cracking up, oozing that cocky main character energy. His stats pop up. D rank low tier, but with an insane A rank potential. The roommates look even more crushed by the flex. They realize that a wild 8 students have already cracked D rank today. Over in the VIP section, 2 scientists are staring hard at their glow. They're completely shook by the crazy amount of talent this year. Normally, barely 2 or 3 kids ever hit D rank during this whole event. The announcer drops the next name. Gong Ting, the legendary student council president, steps up to the plate. The entire arena goes dead silent, watching his every move. His moment has finally arrived. The glowing portal beckons him forward. Everyone knows him as the ultimate prodigy, the golden boy inheriting a massive guild. Word on the street? He hit D rank literally 2 years ago. The whole crowd is holding their breath, betting on whether this absolute unit will shatter the academy. Inside the pitch-black testing chamber, a massive mechanical heart pulses with a deafening thud, its single neon blue eye locked wide open. Gong Ting lazily extends his hand toward the relic. Smirking, he intentionally throttles his aura, wanting to keep his true, overpowered stats hidden. But even while nerfing himself, this guy fully intends to completely dominate the leaderboards and flex on the entire campus. Suddenly, a fierce, blazing orange aura erupts from his eye. Out in the courtyard, the massive digital scoreboard glitches violently with surging white and gold lightning. The mustached examiner drops his jaw, absolutely flabbergasted by the wild color shift. The monolithic screen finally locks in his stats. High-tier D rank, but his growth potential? A straight-up S rank. The entire student body totally loses their minds over those insane numbers. Pure chaos erupts as everyone screams and throws their hands up, completely hyped. Jiang Jian stands there, totally shook, screaming his lungs out to hype up his guild president. Whispers spread like wildfire. Gong Ting is literally the first student in academy history to bag an S-rank potential. Off to the side, Ma Long clenches his trembling fists, paralyzed by the sheer flex. But Si Chen? He just chills there, completely unfazed. Up on the podium, the frantic scientists are already scrambling, instantly escalating this crazy anomaly to the brass. An S-tier prodigy is basically a national treasure, meaning the government will lock him down with max security. Dripping with swagger, Gong Ting casually struts out of the testing zone. The mob parts for him, clapping and fanboying hard. Meanwhile, way up in a sleek penthouse office, the headmaster glances at Ling Yu, assuming she showed up just to scout the golden boy. Staring down through the glass, she completely shuts that down. She smirks, revealing she doesn't care about the heir. She is actually here exclusively for Si Chen instead of Gong Ting's. Back on the ground, the loudspeaker Jiang Jian immediately slides up into Si Chen's personal space, bursting into a petty, mocking snicker. He sarcastically begs the kid to not embarrass their dorm block. Ma Long instantly flares up, barking at the arrogant jerk to watch and learn. Ignoring the drama completely, Si Chen just glides straight toward the swirling neon gateway. Dead silent, he steps into the void-like arena, staring up at that creepy, suspended mechanical heart looming above. The eerie relic abruptly snaps its massive eye wide open. Unbothered, Si Chen stretches his hand out. Deep within the shadows, his own eyes ignite with a menacing blood-red flame. Cut to the graduation deathmatch rules. This brutal trial demands exact squads of 10 elite fighters. The prize? The undisputed champions score a one-way ticket into the Imperial Guild, the most legendary, high-status faction in the entire country. Meanwhile, Kiss-Up Jiang Jian eagerly parades. The new kid is a solid low-tier D rank. That brings their stacked roster to 9 D rank heavyweights, needing only their overpowered president to lock in the ultimate dream team. Gong Ting flashes a wildly cocky smirk, absolutely soaking up the aggressive hype from his loaded crew. Across the yard, Ma Long and the outcast roommates shrink back, looking completely crushed. Sweating bullets, Ma Long obsessively checks his watch. He realizes Si Chen has been trapped in the abyss way too long, and the board is still dead silent. Random extras stroll by, openly roasting Si Chen as total garbage. They are convinced the dude is so weak he cannot even trigger the machine's baseline sensors. Smug as ever, Jiang Jian tells his boss the squad is locked, and suggests they go hit up the karaoke lounge. Gong Ting nods, practically yawning as he turns his back on the stage. Out of nowhere, the colossal monitor spazzes out with jagged white static. A massive glowing letter D punches through the black screen. Ma Long and the underdog squad freeze, their jaws practically hitting the floor. They stare at the glitching display, completely and utterly dumbfounded. Ma Long erupts into purely chaotic cheers, jabbing his finger at the glowing proof. Gong Ting visibly flinches, while his bully minion is left looking like a stunned fish. Boom. The monolithic screen locks it in. Si Chen is officially a high-tier, but inside the pitch-black vault, the bizarre artifact is literally having a meltdown, thudding aggressively and dripping weird condensation. A sleek blue hologram pops up, screaming about a critical system anomaly. The AI begs the user to run it back, convinced its own sensors are tripping. Unbothered, Si Chen just swipes open his personal holographic interface. Every single attribute is totally maxed out at 150 points. It clicks, His basic, untransformed flesh is naturally sitting at peak D rank. Flexing mentally, he chooses to roll with his absolutely weakest class just to see what happens. A sick, glowing class evolution interface materializes in a flash of dark energy. Si Chen mutates into the fearsome Grabahound King. A jagged, ghostly bone mask fuses to half of his face, while his right eye ignites like a laser. Out in the courtyard, the colossal scoreboard violently reboots. The static clears to reveal an impossible, mid-tier C rank. The entire mob goes absolutely feral, screaming and grabbing their heads as their brains short-circuit. Jiangjian screeches that the hardware is totally busted, heavily coping. Up top, the panicked researchers are sweating buckets, frantically trying to debug a non-existent. Meanwhile, trapped in the dark room, that living mechanical core starts hammering. Si Chen connects the dots. If his base stats are this insane, his hidden classes are going to completely shatter that measly C rank. Without a second thought, he triggers another class evolution. Bam! He awakens as the abyssal fiend. Wicked crimson horns sprout from his head, framing piercing, neon blue eyes. A sinister aura of dark purple energy violently whips around his frame, while the testing machine's mechanical core practically screams, throbbing out of control. Outside, the sky absolutely loses its mind. A colossal, apocalyptic purple supercell rips open the heavens, swirling into a massive vortex ripped straight out of a nightmare. While jagged light down in the crowd, his roommates cling to each other, shaking like leaves. They are convinced some world-ending raid boss just spawned right in their school. Up on stage, the main digital display starts violently glitching out. Through a mess of corrupted neon pixels, a massive, blazing yellow S blinks onto the screen under the potential rank. The mustached examiner totally loses it, screeching at the top of his lungs. "Are you kidding me? Another S-class prodigy in our academy," he bellows. Meanwhile, Gong Ting's cocky demeanor vanishes, his eyes locked on the stage with intent. Suddenly, a blaring crimson warning sign hijacks the monitor. "System error," the text screams. The machine straight up crashes, flashing a pop-up that says the power levels are way too astronomical to even calculate. Jiangjian's jaw hits the floor, his eyes bulging as he shrieks in pure disbelief. And then, boom! The entire testing chamber detonates in a deafening explosion. Raging hellfire and crackling azure energy instantly devour the platform. The two researchers scramble toward the thick smoke in an absolute panic, screaming that the core is critically overloading, and they desperately need to push through the wreckage to check for casualties. But inside the dust cloud, Si Chen is just chilling. His irises flare with a piercing cyan brilliance as he casually. Instantly, holographic green hexagons pop up over the heads of every single student in the blast radius, brutally exposing them all as bottom-tier E ranks. But when his gaze snaps to Gong Ting, a glowing pink hexagon hovers over the guy, exposing his true power, mid-tier C class. Si Chen smirks. So, the untouchable student council president has been capping this whole time. Wiping the sweat from his forehead, the head examiner grabs the mic and declares that all ranking evaluations are officially suspended until tomorrow morning. Malong and Xiang Zhou are totally hyped, hyping Si Chen up as an absolute god-tier genius. But their celebration gets cut short when Jiangjian aggressively storms over, absolutely fuming. He gets right in Si Chen's personal space, wildly throwing his arms around and screaming his lungs out. He violently accuses Si Chen of trashing the multi-million-dollar equipment and disrespecting the precious time of the student council. Si Chen's patience snaps. He tightly clenches his fist, and volatile yellow lightning immediately starts crackling across his knuckles. He is half a second away from laying this guy out. Just then, Gong Ting slides into the tension, commanding his lapdog to step back and drop the attitude. Flipping the script, Gong Ting turns his golden boy charm on Si Chen, personally extending an ultra-rare invitation to join his elite squad for the upcoming graduation combat exam. Jiangjian looks like he is about to pop a blood vessel. Their roster is already completely maxed out, meaning he is going to have to forcefully kick out a loyal teammate just to carry this arrogant newbie. Swallowing his pride, he forcefully claps his hand down on Si Chen's shoulder in a fake, aggressive welcome. Smack! Si Chen instantly swats the guy's hand away like a pesky fly. Hard pass, I am not interested. Both the golden boy and his sidekick are absolutely frozen by the sheer disrespect. Jiang Jian snaps, shrieking that they are literally the most overpowered party in the entire academy. Shooting them a dead-eyed glare over his shoulder, Si Chen tells the loudmouth to shut up, warning them to never step foot in his personal business again. Jiang Jian roars in pure rage, a literal burst of flame spitting from his lips. The surrounding students start whispering like crazy, completely floored by Si Chen's insane to publicly reject the most influential guy on campus. Unbothered, Si Chen just casually strolls away, totally chilling. Nearby, Malong and the boys are cowering behind a pillar, their jaws practically glued to the floor. After witnessing their quiet room, Gong Ting is left standing there like a statue, his eyes locked on Si Chen's fading silhouette. High above the chaotic courtyard, Headmaster Yu are watching the entire drama unfold through the massive glass windows of the administrative tower. Ling Yu flashes a wicked smirk. Well, isn't this getting deliciously entertaining? She purrs. She points out that Gong Ting is a spoiled, blue-blood aristocrat who gets whatever he wants. Meaning, Si Chen's public denial wasn't just a rejection, it was an outright declaration. Back on the ground, Gong Ting stares fiercely at the concrete. His mind is racing, silently questioning if that glitchy, god-tier power reading was actually legit. Beside him, Jiang Jian is literally shaking with homicidal rage. He practically begs for permission to hunt Si Chen down and beat some respect into him. Gong Ting shoots him a dangerously cold side-eye. "Do I look like some cheap, petty thug to you?" he asks. Pivoting on his heel, the president coldly announces that the victory karaoke trip is cancelled. But right before walking off, he softly mutters to Jiang Jian that whatever happens off campus is strictly out of his jurisdiction. A sinister, ear-to-ear grin spreads across Jiang Jian's face. The green light has officially been given. 10 minutes later, a silver-haired lackey runs up and reports that their target just walked out of the academy gates, heading solo towards his apartment. Jiang Jian viciously stomps a blue soda can into a flat metal pancake. His eyes gleam with sadistic hype, ready to completely jump this arrogant freshman in the back alleys. Meanwhile, Si Chen is just vibing, with his white earbuds blasting music. He looks completely detached from reality, his mind dragging him back into a dark memory. The scene violently shifts to the past, revealing an elite paralyzed in front of a colossal, pulsating pink eye floating in the dark. This is the apocalyptic calamity known simply as Rat. Gigantic, fleshy, tan tentacles, completely covered in twitching red eyeballs, violently erupt from the shattered earth, absolutely massacring the... Si Chen darkly narrates how this cosmic horror didn't stop there. It eventually ripped open a portal and unleashed pure hell. Snapping back to reality, Si Chen stands alone on a crumbling asphalt street. He already has a master plan brewing to hunt down Wrath's exact spawn point. But pulling this off requires a seriously massive stack of cash. His footsteps finally stop in front of an imposing, marble-white, Roman-style institution, staring up at that proudly reads, Mithril Monster Exchange. Our guy rolls right up to the Mithril Monster Exchange. He steps into a massive hall, packed to the ceiling with lethal battle axes, heavy shields, and razor-sharp swords. Slapping a handful of jagged monster fangs onto the front desk, he waits as the dude working the counter just stares at them, totally clueless. Luckily, a female employee named Miss Lee chimes in, correctly spotting them as Grab-a-Hound fangs. But the first guy just rolls his eyes, oozing major NPC energy. He scoffs, bragging that their high-end spot only caters to elite, heavy-hitting warriors. He flat-out calls the E-rank drops absolute trash, and literally turns his back on them, storming off to the storage room. He dumps the rest of the transaction squarely on Miss Lee's shoulders. Checking his screen, Si Chen catches a crisp 18,000 hitting his account. He mutters that it's at least enough to keep a roof over his head. But then, he casually lifts his hand. Glowing pink pixels and a blinding surge of purple energy spark from his palm, materializing a colossal, jagged greatsword straight out of thin air. Miss Lee is totally mesmerized by the glowing blade, assuming this absolute unit of a weapon must be a super rare A-rank drop. The smug guy instantly starts roasting her. barking that A-rank gear goes for millions and doesn't just fall from the sky. But right on cue, a man named Chingji steps into the lobby. He locks onto the massive blade and immediately shuts the arrogant employee down, stating this isn't some basic A or B tier loot. He reveals it is a legendary S-rank artifact, pulled straight from the abyssal lands. The rude guy practically soils himself. The color drains from his face, his eyes bug out, and he screeches in pure terror. Chingji wastes zero time, striding over to Si Chen and locking him into a rock-solid handshake. He drops the VIP treatment, swearing it is an absolute privilege to serve him, and personally escorts him to the private lounge. Unfazed, Si Chen studies the man's aura and instantly clocks him as the head honcho of the entire Mithril Guild. Back in the ultra-fancy VIP room, they chill on these lavish green velvet sofas lined with pure gold. Chingji leans in, asking what kind of bag Si Chen is expecting for the blade. Si Chen flashes his piercing red eyes and drops a surprisingly low number, 1 million. Flabbergasted, the guildmaster reminds him this masterpiece could easily fetch tens of millions on the market. That is when Si Chen clarifies the play. He is not selling the sword, he is just putting it up as collateral for a quick cash advance. He guarantees he will clear the $1 million debt in exactly 30 days. This bold move completely blows Chingji away, highly respecting the kid's calculated swagger. Relaxing deep into the premium cushions, Si Chen takes a slow sip of his tea. Chingji observes him closely, totally convinced this guy is built entirely different. Si Chen sweetens the pot, offering a solid 10% interest return when the month is up. Sensing a bigger opportunity, Chingji signals Miss Li to exit the room for a private chat. Pushing up his glasses with a slick grin, the boss correctly guesses that Si Chen is secretly enrolled at the elite National Awakener University. He lays out the facts. The massive graduation tournament kicks off in exactly 1 month, and the grand prize happens to be exactly 1 million. Connecting the dots, he points out how perfectly that timeline lines up with the repayment pitch. Reading the room, Chingji knows our boy needs fast liquidity, so he throws out an insanely generous counteroffer. He promises to wire a clean 1.5 million directly into his account. Right here, right now. And the best part? 0 interest for the first 30 days. Standing tall, Chingji extends a friendly hand. He genuinely wants to build a long-term alliance. Si Chen stays completely silent, absorbing the offer as the boss swears to keep this entire transaction strictly off the record. Flashing a business-savvy smile, Chingji just asks that the Mithril Exchange becomes his go-to spot for all future epic loot drops. Staring the veteran leader down, Si Chen silently respects the man's sharp intellect and insane networking skills. Realizing he cannot solo the ultimate boss, Demon King Wrath, he decides a rich ally is exactly what he needs. They firmly lock hands to seal the deal. Right in the middle of the luxury suite, Chingji presses his palm onto an ancient magic scroll. A golden, crackling magic circle instantly flares to life. Ding! A fresh alert pops up on Si Chen's screen, confirming a massive deposit of 1.5 million has safely hit his bank. With the transaction cleared, Chingji curiously asks how Si Chen plans to survive the brutal final exams without his overpowered S-rank blade. He even generously offers to front him some top-tier A or B rank gear from the vault. But Si Chen just smirks, turning the offer down cold. Lifting his left hand, a familiar wave of glitchy pink pixels shatters the air. Out of nowhere, he pulls a second, terrifyingly huge purple greatsword that is a literal carbon copy of the first one. He casually grips the legendary glowing steel like it's nothing. The guildmaster and his crew completely lose their minds, gasping and hollering in utter disbelief at the flex. Meanwhile, our boy calmly strolls out the front doors, right as Chingji immediately promotes Miss Li to head supervisor for actually doing her job right. Hopping into a bright yellow cab, Si Chen heads straight for the massive Changchang County Long-Distance Transit Center, posting up outside the busy terminal. Suddenly his mind drifts to his darkest broke era before he awakened his powers. A tragic flashback hits, showing his sweet younger sister Si Yun desperately trying to cheer him up while they stare at a pathetic account balance of just $105.60. In that agonizing memory, Si-yoon stares down at her dream acceptance letter to the prestigious International Central Art Institute, only to violently rip it to shreds. Sobbing, she sacrifices her own future, insisting she needs to stay behind to support him. Snapping back to reality, Si-chen leans against, waiting patiently until a familiar, excited voice screams out for him. Whipping his head around, he sees his sister sprinting his way and instantly wraps her in a fierce, protective hug. Totally caught off guard by the sudden burst of emotion, her eyes but burying his face in her shoulder, Si-chen just flashes a warm, genuinely happy smile. Si-yoon rolls her eyes, delivering a playful jab to his chest. "You acting weird 'cause of some girl?" she teases. Si-chen just chuckles, effortlessly hoisting her massive yellow suitcase. She chatters away with non-stop energy, while Si-chen watches her with a soft, protective smile. He silently vows to protect her at all costs in this second life. Cut to the gritty shadows of a narrow alleyway. Jiang lurks in the darkness, backed up by a menacing crew of masked thugs. Tracing his finger over a crumpled city map, he pinpoints Si-chen's daily route home. He motions for his goons to lay low, waiting for the perfect split second to ambush him. The memory of Si-chen disrespecting him, telling him to shut his mouth, still burns in his mind. Grinding his teeth in pure rage, Jiang hisses that he's going to completely wreck Si-chen. There's no way he's letting that punk make it to the graduation exam in one piece. His face contorts with toxic malice as he unsheathes a nasty, glowing, jagged blade. Calling Si-chen a total fraud, his manic laughter echoes out into... Meanwhile, the siblings are just casually trekking home. Si-yoon happily sips from a cute little cow print milk carton. She asks if he's sweating over the upcoming graduation test, telling him he needs to lock in. Then, she randomly bursts into a cheesy, upbeat song about... Si-chen glances at his carefree sister, reflecting on the heavy emotional armor guys always build around themselves. The two keep strolling down the block. Just up ahead in a pitch-black alleyway, Jiang and his masked cronies spy on their targets. The bully smirks, bragging about their insane luck today, claiming it's a blessing since this dead end has 0 security cameras. Suddenly, Si-chen's gaze sharpens into a deadly glare. His heightened senses catch the faint, unmistakable scent of the student council rats, hiding just around them. Piercing through the thick shadows, he spots their creeping silhouettes, waiting to jump him. Without missing a beat, Si-chen slips a hand into his pocket, pulling out a pair of sleek white wireless earbuds. He gently pops them into his sister's ears. "I've had this track on repeat lately," he casually lies. Trusting him, Si-yoon shuts her eyes, letting the loud beat wash over her. "You know, your playlist totally exposes your vibe," she hums along. Stepping smoothly in front of her, Si-chen becomes a human shield. A dangerous, icy blue aura ignites in his eyes. Jiang's masked squad creeps out of the darkness. Holographic blue hexagons pop up above their heads like video game stats, exposing Jiang as a D-rank brawler, and his lackeys as mere E-rank fodder. While Si-yoon bops her head to the music, agonizing flashbacks hit Si-chen, the soul-crushing memory of losing his sister back in the year 2160. Now regressed back to the year 2167, the weight of this second chance crashes into him. After 7 torturous years, he finally has his family back. He'll be damned if he loses her again. Si-chen's face contorts with pure, unadulterated fury, as violent arcs of crackling yellow lightning erupt around his body. His jaw locked, eyes blazing like neon flares. Boom! Si-chen blasts forward at blinding speed, leaving glowing lightning trails in his wake. He launches himself straight at the front line and caves a guy's face in with a savage, lightning-fast roundhouse kick. The next goon just freezes, staring in absolute, pants-wetting terror. Meanwhile, Si-yoon blissfully struts down the sidewalk, eyes closed, totally vibing to the blasting music. Behind her, Si-chen is an absolute menace, tearing through the mob in a blur of hyper-speed strikes. He effortlessly weaves under a brutal baseball bat swing and punts the attacker into the stratosphere with a skull-rattling kick. Grabbing another thug's arm, he brutally snaps the bone like a twig. As the guy shrieks in pure agony, Si Chen silences him instantly with a devastating haymaker to the jaw. The raw impact triggers a massive shockwave, flashing a comic-style boom across the screen. The remaining lackeys are literally shaking, sweating bullets as they stammer out, "Bro, how is he this busted?" Undeterred, Si Chen stalks deeper into the alley, continuing his one-man rampage, dropping bodies left. Completely losing his mind, Jiang Jian screams like a maniac and lunges with his jagged dagger. But Si Chen doesn't even flinch, charging up a heavy, electricity-fueled right hook and planting it squarely into the bully's face. The impact spikes Jiang Jian into the concrete, sending up a huge crater of dust and a deafening explosion sound effect. The dust clears. Si Chen stands menacingly over the bloodied, knocked-out bully. A demonic, blood-red glow ignites in Si Chen's eyes as he stares down at his pathetic target. "I thought I made it crystal clear. You don't mess with me," he growls, pressing the bully's own jagged blade right against his throat. "Shut your mouth. One sound, and you're done for," Si Chen snarls, radiating pure lethal, and a terrifying realization washes over Jiang Jian. This isn't a bluff. The quiet kid is genuinely about to end him right here. Rising to his feet, Si Chen stands victorious over the moaning bodies of the trashed gang scattered across the asphalt. He shoots Jiang Jian a death glare. "Carve every word I'm about to say into your brain. I couldn't care less if you scumbags rot in hell. Just stay out of my way," he warns the crippled crew. "But listen closely. If you ever breathe in my sister's direction, or even look at her again, it's over for you." He is about to erase them from existence entirely. Meanwhile, Si Yun is completely lost in the heavy melody blasting through her earbuds. Tears instantly start streaming down her cheeks the second those emotional lyrics. She cannot shake this heavy, crushing sense of isolation washing over her. It is like she can vividly feel the pure hell her brothers survived while they were ripped apart. Cut to the busy streets. Si Chen casually hands over a tiny crimson box to his sister. She pops the lid, her eyes widening in pure shock at the gleaming gold pen resting inside. Si Chen just watches her, flashing this incredibly soft, but entirely hidden from her view. His intensely clenched fist is flashback to that dark alleyway. Zhang Jin and his vicious crew are absolutely wrecked on the concrete. They are utterly demolished, violently sobbing and desperately begging for an ambulance. Fast forward to their cozy apartment. Boom. A radiant, neon-pink fish materializes out of nowhere, magically swimming through their living room. Si Chen kicks back at their rustic wooden table, casually slurping down a steaming bowl of ramen. He casually drops a bomb. He just covered their apartment rent for the entire next year. Flashing that trademark warm grin, he claims he locked down a seriously sweet side hustle. He sits there, looking completely at peace. Melting with pure adoration, Si Yun gazes back and gently rests her hand right on his shoulder. For the first time in forever, they actually get to soak in a perfectly peaceful vibe. The camera violently pans. We find Gong Ting standing totally isolated in the shadows. His dark silhouette slices right through the electric glow of an aquarium packed with drifting fish. The employment director aggressively steps up, ready to break down the results of that brutal recent exam. Adjusting his thick glasses, Gong Shuang stares into the tank, verifying that Si Chen officially secured a solid C-rank status. He brutally points out the cold, hard facts. Si Chen is now the only kid on campus outranking Gong Ting. Gong Shuang slyly drops a hint about a massive open slot that desperately needs claiming. But Gong Ting just brushes his uncle off, arrogantly swearing he totally held back his raw power during those trials. He swears on his life to prove he is the absolute apex predator on campus. It is now 2300 hours, dead quiet inside the National Awakener University boys' dorm. Si Chen stands under the blazing hot shower, steaming water sliding off his incredibly toned shoulders. His mind is racing about what comes next. He vividly envisions that massive golden trophy and the insane $1 million prize money, waiting at the grand graduation tournament. Then, his thought with the elite guildmaster, Qing Ji, Hours later, Si Chen collapses into his cramped bunk bed, shutting his heavy eyes to finally catch some hard-earned sleep. But the second he drifts off, a blinding notification pops up. System message. Gluttony system. Activate. Instantly, he is violently ripped right back into that savage crimson wasteland. He is staring dead at a colossal, spike-covered demonic spire, piercing straight through the toxic violet clouds. He pulls up his totally refreshed stats. He is dominating as a mid-tier C-rank powerhouse. Slowly, he stares at the ridiculously overpowered triple S-rank Key of the Void, pulsing right in his palm. Curiosity completely takes over. What kind of nightmare is hiding inside? He marches right up to those mammoth stone doors and thrusts the glowing key forward. An explosive wave of blinding violet and white energy blasts outward. The massive gates screech open, revealing a chaotic, swirling vortex of pure cosmic power. Without hesitating, Si Chen steps directly into the abyss and gets instantly transported into a completely— Welcome to the brutally named Fallen Star Wastes. Out of nowhere, an unbelievably crushing force slams into his body. He instantly gasping desperately for air. He grunts in pure agony as it hits him. The gravity, in this cursed zone, is cranking at 10 times the level of regular Earth. Suddenly, right on the rocky ridge behind him, this absolute monster is a legendary B-rank star warrior, glaring down with hollow, glowing white eyes. Fighting tooth and nail against that fatal 10G gravity, Si Chen clenches his jaw and powerfully triggers a total class awakening. Level up. He instantly swaps to his level 10 Lightning Assassin class. A crackling blade of pure yellow voltage materializes right in his grip. Launching himself off the ground with his weapon raised high, he goes straight for— But instead of a clean slice, a massive holographic miss flashes right in front of his face. The system ruthlessly confirms. His critical strike and stun completely flopped. Si Chen's eyes practically bulge out of his skull. The Phantom Lion doesn't miss a beat and instantly bites back. Closing the distance in a flash, the monster tackles him hard, pinning him face first into the jagged rocks. Reality hits him like a truck. The beasts in this tower are insanely overpowered. Time for Plan B. He immediately swaps to his Purgatory Rakshasa build. A glowing interface pops up, projecting his absolutely stacked new stats and Star Warrior abilities. Tapping into the crushing atmosphere around him, he weaponizes the gravity itself, stacking its pressure to supercharge his next strike. The system gauges spike wildly, shooting from 200 straight to a massive 600%. His fist is now packing 60 times its original destructive force. Letting out a feral roar, Si Chen catapults himself straight at the towering beast. The creature snaps its massive jaws open to intercept, but Si Chen is already airborne, fully triggering his supergravity mode. An explosive column of blinding violet and white aura blasts outward from his knuckles. The sheer shockwave utterly pulverizes the earth beneath them into countless— When the dust clears, a colossal crater is left permanently scarred into the fallen star wastes. Sprawled dead center in the rubble, Si Chen gasps for air. A system chime rings out, rewarding him with a sweet 12,000 XP. Right on cue, another holographic alert drops. He officially hit level 11. He breaks it down for us. Every single star branded on his class cards acts as a raw power multiplier. While his Lightning Assassin rocks 9 stars, his Purgatory Rakshasa— It suddenly clicks. His builds are completely shattering the standard B-rank power ceiling. Catching his breath, Si Chen stands victorious over the glowing— The interface pings again, tagging the beast's remains as ready to be devoured. Reaching out, he aggressively siphons its life force straight into his palm. Far off in the cosmic backdrop, a towering gateway of violet light rips open the night sky. Out of absolutely nowhere, a swirling pitch-black vortex tears open. Inside the abyss, multiple pairs of menacing, glowing white eyes lock onto him. 4 fresh, bloodthirsty phantom lions spring from the portal in perfect sync. Reality slaps him in the face again. That raid boss level monster he just gave his literal everything to beat? Yeah, it was just a low-level grunt. Before he can blink, a razor-sharp claw slashes across him, sending crimson flying. The scene fades to brutal, shadowy silhouettes as the pack savagely tears him to shreds. A chilling system prompt drops the ultimate Rakshasa warning. The second those doors unlock, prepare to drown in absolute His eyes snap open. He jolts upright in bed, violently gasping for air while clutching his pounding heart. Drenched in a cold sweat, pure terror is plastered on his face as he sits alone in the pitch-black room, blankly staring at the floorboards. The phantom agony from his nightmare is still burning through his nerve endings. Glaring down at his trembling hand, he violently balls it into a tight fist. He grits his teeth, acknowledging the harsh truth. Grinding to the top means zero shortcuts. Flash forward to Friday, May 20th, 2157. Inside the massive grand auditorium, the hype is all about the upcoming graduation combat exam. Chilling casually in the front row, Gong Xuan takes a long swig from a sleek metal flask. The stadium seating is absolutely packed to the brim, with uniformed students buzzing with energy. Cliques and friend groups are huddled up, frantically whispering the latest gossip. Word on the street is that top-tier guild scouts are lurking around today, hunting. Blending right into the chaotic crowd, Si Chen sits in dead silence, soaking up the chatter around him. Everyone is totally stressing over the sky-high. Stepping up to the mic, Gong Xuan finally commands the room from the main podium. On cue, the entire auditorium lifts their wrists to scan their smart bracelets. Glowing neon blue holograms pop up everywhere, officially dropping the squad assignments for the ultimate. The results drop, and it is a total disaster. Xiang Ma Long totally loses it, letting out a massive, panicked scream. He whips his head toward Shi Chen, completely mind-blown, demanding to know how they bombed the assessment this badly. The rest of the crowd instantly turns on them, pointing fingers and cracking up at Shi Chen. They brutally roast him, branding him an absolute zero. But Shi Chen? He does not even flinch, just coldly locking his eyes onto his holographic wrist. Across the room, Gong Ting glares daggers at him from the shadows, eyes narrowed like a predator. Steepling his fingers together, a wicked, arrogant smirk spreads across his face. He is already plotting to completely crush the competition, making sure these nobodies will not even stand a ghost of a chance in the upcoming trial. Total chaos erupts as everyone scrambles across the massive hall, desperately hunting for. A massive swarm of tryhards immediately mobs Gong Ting. They are practically screaming over each other. This one pink-haired girl shrieks at the top of her lungs, flexing her insane. Meanwhile, some dude wearing a headband literally shouts that he is willing to be the president's loyal dog. Gong Ting just stands there, totally iced out, completely ignoring the pathetic fan club. One of his stuck-up student council lackeys finally snaps, telling the mob to shut up because they only have one single open slot left. 30 agonizing minutes tick by. Squads are locked in all over the arena. Neon green lights flash from their wristbands, projecting a massive, team-formed hologram. While staring down at their blank screens, the harsh reality hits. They are still stuck at just 4 players. Ma Long is straight up hyperventilating, wiping buckets of sweat. He panics, yelling that the strict system requirements demand exactly 5 members and a heavy-hitting high D rank. He is totally convinced the academy is rigging the game to screw over their dorm. But Shi Chen just stares dead ahead, his brain doing the math. He figures out that maxing out the party size will automatically spawn a way bigger mob of monsters. He instantly decodes the system's hidden trap. Bigger squads might farm better points, but the threat level skyrockets right along with it. So, he firmly holds his ground with his tiny crew, ready to tank the brutal final trial exactly. With Ma Long, Xiang Yu, and Shi Chen officially branded as bottom-feeding E-ranks, some random guy from a rival squad suddenly shouts over to Xiang Zhou. The dude tries to poach him, offering up their very last party slot to bait. He straight up warns Xiang Zhou that carrying those 3 pieces of dead weight will absolutely tank his graduation run. Shi Chen watches silently, fully aware their little squad is about to get completely blacklisted by the entire campus. Xiang Zhou drops his gaze for a split second before boldly rejecting the lifeline. He fiercely declares that his bros are a package deal, and they are riding this out together. The surrounding cliques burst into toxic laughter, ruthlessly mocking them as the ultimate flop squad. Ma Long anxiously glues his eyes to the massive holographic leaderboard tracking the party rosters. Almost every single row is already flashing with a solid green checkmark. Dripping with cold sweat, he frantically jabs a finger at the giant. He screams that literally every single faction is completely locked in. He totally loses hope, crying out that there is not a single high-tier D-rank player left in the building to carry them. Suddenly, Shi Chen turns his head, his irises igniting with a blinding, toxic cyan glare as he instantly triggers his brain. Meanwhile, deep inside a pitch-black office, Gong Xuan sits He is secretly pulling the strings, planning to rig the entire database, just to bulletproof Gong Ting's golden boy status. Back in the massive auditorium, Shi Chen rises to his feet, letting his raw power absolutely explode. A blinding system alert pops up out of nowhere. Class change initiated. Violent arcs of pure yellow lightning rip out of his physical body, while his eyes blaze with a terrifying, godlike golden fire. Up in the VIP box, the Academy Director and Malong's jaw practically hits the floor as he jabs a finger at Si Chen. Si Chen anchors himself dead center of the arena, raw lightning violently crackling across the floorboards around him. He drops a massive truth bomb, reminding everyone that Academy traditions totally permit a head-on duel to flex their actual power levels. Si Chen locks laser-focused eyes with Gong Ting. He knows the drill, obliterating the Academy's #1 product. Pulling this off will literally force the rest of the student body to beg to join his final exam squad. Suddenly, Ling Yu leans against the doorframe, calling out to grab Si Chen's attention. She struts straight up to him, casually asking if his squad still desperately needs an extra carry. Volunteering for the roster, she drops the ultimate flex. She has been rocking a solid D-rank status since her middle school days. Malong completely loses his mind, hyping her up with an ear-piercing scream of pure joy. The entire crowd instantly erupts into whispers, totally geeking out over Ling Yu's legendary prodigy reputation from her old academy. Director Gong Xuan aggressively shoots out of his seat, barking furiously at the new girl. He jams an accusing finger in her direction, flat out rejecting her eligibility for the trials. He snaps that without a university-verified tier test and official paperwork, she is practically a ghost in the system. Letting her compete, he sneers, would be a massive violation of academy protocols. But out of absolutely nowhere, Principal Yuan Long materializes right behind the furious director. Radiating an insane aura of blinding purple energy and neon, Gong Xuan violently flinches, whipping his head around as cold sweat immediately drenches his. The headmaster and the new girl stand bathed in that aggressively vibrant violet illumination. Si Chen analyzes the scene, totally thrown off by the principal's build. Yuan Long is a straight-up brawler, yet he is casually spamming teleportations. His pupils ignite with a piercing cyan flare, desperately trying to scan their hidden power tiers. Instead of stats, 2 holographic hexagons, flashing giant question marks, pop up right above their heads, meaning their base stats are heavily encrypted, completely blocking his visual appraisal. Gong Xuan stammers out a speech about the exam's true purpose, and why cultivating elite talent is top priority. Yuan Long just stares the sweating director down with an absolutely chilling, dead-eyed glare. He declares, his voice dripping with authority, that the institution is fully Gong Xuan looks like he just saw a ghost, trembling as the anxiety sweats completely take over. It suddenly clicks. The principal is low-key calling him out while heavily shielding Si Chen. The defeated director stares at the floorboards, violently shaking, and in his head, he is aggressively cursing the headmaster, branding him a manipulative old fox. Snatching the mic, the principal projects his voice across the arena, dropping a major patch note to the exam regulation. He officially greenlights registration for any squad, rolling with less than 5 players, or lacking a D-rank shot caller. Si Chen and the boys immediately lock hands in a massive huddle, their neon green smart bands syncing up and glowing brightly. A holographic squad assembled pop-up flashes in mid-air, while the crew loses their minds, crowning Si Chen as the absolute captain. From the shadows, the principal and Ling Yu quietly monitor the newly minted lead. A lab tech stares at his tablet, visibly shook by the insanely fast speedrun time of Si Chen's dungeon selection. Absolute panic ripples through the crowd, Students literally shriek in pure terror as the squad's suicide mission difficulty flashes across the... Malong and the bros go into full meltdown mode, frantically waving their arms and begging Si-Chen to abort the insane matchmaking queue. But the captain, he does not flinch. Not a single word escapes his lips. He just locks onto his glowing smart wristband with a terrifyingly serious, stone-cold focus. This is it. The Academy's ultimate graduation battle examination is officially a go. Rivals squad up, preparing to dive headfirst into a highly lethal, real... You rack up points by slaughtering the trash mobs and completely shredding the zone boss. Speed is everything. They also bag massive bonus multipliers for clearing the entire trial in under 1 hour. Risk equals reward. Surviving an E-rank nightmare yields way heavier multipliers than an F-rank run. Snagging first place guarantees a highly coveted contract with the legendary Imperial Guild. Not to mention, the absolute top-tier student takes home a massive bag of 1 million yuan. Glued to a glowing tablet, a couple of classmates look absolutely petrified. The freckled kid visibly gulps, while his buddy is practically dripping in nervous sweat. Whispers spread that the ultimate high score in Academy history is capped at 90 points. Word on the street is, you'd need a minimum of 3 cracked D-rank heavyweights just to scrape by an E-rank dungeon alive. Meanwhile, Gong Ting chills with his massive squad. Suddenly, a massive alert flashes across the main holographic display. A bespectacled kid stares at the board, his jaw hitting the absolute floor. He screams out to the packed hall that a squad has already locked in their battlefield. Zooming in on the glitching interface, he spots Si-Chen's roster next to 3 insane difficulty tiers, F, E, and D. Yep, Si-Chen's glaring avatar sits dead center in the brutal D-rank death zone. The kid loses his mind, knowing damn well no rookie has ever cleared a D-rank nightmare and lived to tell the tale. Ma Long violently yanks Si-Chen's sleeve, screaming his lungs out. Bro, do you even realize what you just clicked? Nearby, Xiang Zuo collapses to the ground, sobbing into his hands, completely devastated that he's tied to this suicide squad. A chilling buzz echoes as a pop-up invades everyone's wrist terminals. It's the final prompt. Confirm entry into the D-rank slaughterhouse? Dripping cold sweat, Ma Long glares at the flashing holographic text. He gets right up in Si-Chen's grill and barks, "Have you actually processed how deadly a D-rank zone is?" Totally unbothered, Si-Chen keeps his icy gaze locked. He casually brushes it off, stating he knows exactly what he is doing. A bright pulse lights up the room as the insane choice is locked in. The colossal leaderboard refreshes, slapping 2 bold profiles right under the terrifying D-rank banner. The names? Gong Ting, and the underdog, a neon pink pop-up, suddenly dominates the Jumbotron. It officially declares that every single squad mate has blindly accepted their fate. Right on cue, the system blasts an audio alert, confirming Team Gong Ting has also thrown their hats into the ring. The entire auditorium erupts into absolute chaos, crowds howling and hyping up the madness. The glasses-wearing dude looks like he's seen a ghost, while the mob roars that this year's trials are going to be pure cinema. Up in the VIP section, Gong Ting lounges back, arms folded and eyes shut, looking totally unfazed. One of his elite fangirl teammates flashes a wicked smirk. She instantly roasts them, scoffing at their desperate attempt to look edgy. The rest of Gong Ting's crew cracks up, ruthlessly pointing fingers at the doomed squad. They trash talk, saying Si-Chen is just clout chasing and will get dumped by his own guys. Meanwhile, Ma Long shoots aside. He instantly senses a suffocating, overpowered aura radiating from him. Totally unlike the frail, needy kid Si-Chen used to be. A fiery determination suddenly flares up behind Ma Long's thick lenses. He screams at the top of his lungs, "Screw it, I'm riding with you till the wheels fall off." Thrusting his arm into the air, he savagely smashes the glowing green accept. Seeing this, a trembling Xiang Zuo lifts his wrist and reluctantly taps confirm, too. Looking totally drained of life, he sighs, saying the difficulty tier doesn't even matter anymore, since they're already rock-bottom trash anyway. Boom. Every single member has officially signed their death warrants for the D-rank trial. triggering a massive system shoutout for Team Shi-Chen's locked-in registration. Shi-Chen anchors himself right in the dead center of the massive hall, flanked by his 3 loyal dorm mates. Casting a heavy, dead-serious look toward the floor, he finally breaks the silence and apologizes to his boys. He drops the bomb that he purposely dragged them into this D-rank hellscape just to snatch the ultimate MVP crown. Locking eyes with his brothers in arms, Shi-Chen declares they aren't just surviving, they're shattering the absolute high score together. Gong Ting claims the high ground, staring a hole right through Shi-Chen. He roars that this university only has room for one absolute king. Ling Yu scopes the drama from the sidelines. She admits she's literally never seen Gong Ting crash out with this much rage and raw focus before. The ultimate beef between these two heavyweights is officially out in the open, the tension practically sizzling as they lock eyes across the massive hall. Meanwhile, Headmaster Yuan Long just kicks back, flashing a subtle, knowing smirk. Ling Yu drops her gaze, deep in thought, straight up calling Shi-Chen delusional for lock. F rank gives you a 1.5 multiplier. E rank doubles it, but D rank? That yields a massive 3 times multiplier, capping out at a wild 150 points. A neon red hazard sign violently blinks right under the D rank section. Ling Yu is totally convinced that Shi-Chen's 4-man squad is way too squishy to survive this insane gamble. Yuan Long casually points out the ticking clock. They only have 1 month flat until the massive battle exam drops. Cut to the combat simulation room at 22:45. Inside, top-tier prodigies strapped into high-tech VR visors are busy sweating it out against digital beasts. Pulses of blue energy and massive red shockwaves light up the room as they grind out their combos in a totally safe, controlled arena. Yuan Long crosses his fingers, hoping Shi-Chen's crew won't totally embarrass themselves and can at least put on a hype show. Smash cut to the school stadium. Shi-Chen stands there completely unbothered, while his 3 roommates are hunched over, absolutely hurling their guts out all over the ground and the stairs. With the clock winding down, a mere 17 days stand between them and the brutal exam. Ma Long looks like he just ran a marathon, drenched in cold sweat, and gasping for air. He begs to know why they are grinding out old-school cardio instead of leveling up in the Academy's shiny monster simulator. Shi-Chen immediately shuts it down, dropping the hard truth that virtual training isn't reality. He warns them that the second these students step foot into a real dungeon for the first time, pure, paralyzing terror is going to hit them like a truck. Shi-Chen. He straight up tells his crew to trash those boring textbook theories, because out in the real world, raw, unfiltered survival instinct is the only thing. He locks eyes with them, declaring a grueling grind of stamina, explosive power, and razor-sharp reflexes to push their combat senses into absolute overdrive. Those cushy virtual school simulations? Total garbage. He calls them out for barely scratching the surface of actual warfare. He drops the hard truth that only ultra-rich Nepo babies get VIP access to grind in real, blood-soaked dungeons. Cut to Gong Ting, who casually unleashes a blinding, neon. Shi-Chen points out that these wealthy heirs are practically handed god-tier stats at birth, while everyone else just scrounges for the scraps. But Shi-Chen refuses to fold, hyping up the graduation exam as their one and only golden ticket into the legendary Imperial Guild. This is their ultimate shot to absolutely destroy the elite hierarchy. Shi-Chen's jaw tightens like steel, his crimson eyes igniting with a dangerous He swears to his squad right then and there. They aren't just going to compete, they are going to totally crush this tournament. 15 days before the ultimate showdown, Shi-Chen plunges headfirst into the brutal Starfell wastelands. Deep within the pitch-black Tower of Darkness, he launches himself off the ground, turning into a deadly blur of motion. He clashes with a vicious pack of neon-purple phantom lions, grunting in pure agony as one beast sinks its razor teeth right into his chest, while another nightmare cat swipes wildly, tearing into 10 days left on the clock. Shi-Chen drags his squad through a hellish marathon sprint across the campus track. His boys are absolutely gassed, with one literally eating dirt. Meanwhile, back in the tower, Shi-Chen mercilessly fries a lion with a lethal blast of raw lightning. In a parallel grind, Gongting is out there effortlessly carving up enemies with blinding, pinpoint sword strikes. Only 5 days to go. Sichin goes into absolute beast mode, repping out push-ups while crushed under a massive stack of iron plates. His squad just watches in pure shock, chanting out the insane. 3 days out, Gongting stands completely unfazed, chilling like a boss in an apocalyptic wasteland of roaring flames and choking ash. Fast forward to 2 days before the bloodbath. Sichin perches on a literal mountain of slaughtered beasts, deep in the starry wasteland. A glowing holographic screen pops up, confirming he just dinged to a solid level 16. Finally, the clock ticks down to 0. Just one single day remains before the graduation gauntlet cracks open. Sichin's face is smeared with fresh blood, his eyes radiating a fierce, golden aura. He smirks, whispering that the real slaughter has officially begun. June 17th, 2157. Judgment Day is here. The graduation battle exam kicks off. Sichin tightly snaps a sleek black combat glove onto his. He posts up in a dimly lit, never-ending hallway alongside his 3 loyal bros. The whole crew is totally jacked now, radiating an insane, untouchable aura of. A booming intercom voice shatters the silence, announcing that the brutal survivor. An ominous neon blue glow pulses behind 3 mysterious silhouettes glaring out from the giant monitor. Meanwhile, across the massive administration complex, Headmaster Yuan, rocking a sharp brown trench coat and sleek glasses, this absolute unit is none other than Gonglin. He is the untouchable godfather of the Imperial Guild. And yeah, he's Gongting's old man. A mob of anxious students peeks over the edge of a high-rise balcony. They are totally losing their minds, completely shook that such a god-tier heavyweight actually showed up on. Suddenly, a pristine white luxury vehicle glides to a halt right at the academy. Intimidating guards in black suits instantly swarm the ride, locking down the heavy door pops open, and a striking guy with neon pink hair steps onto the. Enter Carl Cavendish, the terrifyingly powerful vice chairman of the Global Guild Federation. Draped in a tailored gray overcoat, he smoothly adjusts his crisp cuffs like an absolute. The crowd up on the balcony goes feral, screaming their lungs out in pure disbelief. They are freaking out, totally mind-blown, that a top-tier global executive just crashed their local exam. Whispers ripple through the crowd about how the Guild Federation is literally the most overpowered, untouchable faction on the entire planet. Carl Cavendish strides toward the grand entrance alongside a fierce woman, Sigrid, the ruthless Secretary General of the entire Federation. Deep inside the high-tech command center, Director Gong Xuan kicks back at his massive desk. His eyes stay glued to a massive wall of glowing monitors, tracking every corner of the Academy's chaotic testing grounds. Meanwhile, Secretary General Sigrid strides down a sleek corridor, flanked by Principal Yuan Long and his entourage of top. A smug, confident smirk plays on the principal's lips as he guides the VIPs forward. They stroll past endless banks of flashing screens, ready to witness the brutal graduation exams firsthand. A massive crowd of elites trails closely behind the heavy hitters, flooding into the main observation deck. On screen, absolute mayhem unfolds as rookies clash with savage beasts deep within the simulated nightmares. One desperate candidate swings a crackling azure energy blade, violently clashing against a massive, thrashing water leviathan, known. Cut to a pitch-black cavern, where a colossal, razor-toothed sandworm explodes from the murky depths right beside 2 terrified teens. Swarms of grotesque stag spiders skitter wildly across the damp walls and cavern ceiling. A spectacled kid stares up at the nightmare fuel, violently shaking as pure panic takes. Back in the war room, Gong Xuan hyper-focuses on the brutal live feed. He casually assures everyone that pro instructors are camped at the exit gates, ready to crash the party the second a kid faces lethal danger. Suddenly, a monstrous arachnid towers over a totally defenseless, grounded student. Shrieking his lungs out, the kid frantically slams. A blaring crimson illuminated warning flashes as he completely bails out of the bloodbath. Boom! A blinding burst of red light instantly zaps him and his entire squad back to safety. Sigrid keeps her sharp gaze locked on the remaining feeds. She points out that only 2 squads are still surviving the insanely brutal D-rank zone, adding that she is totally hyped to see them flex their skills. Gong Xuan squints at the broadcast, fully betting that these rookies will crack and tap out any second now. Meanwhile, our main crew pushes straight into lurking on a massive, ice-coated branch sits a wraithwing monkey, a deadly D-rank threat packing ash-gray fur and insanely lethal, razor-sharp claws. Si Chen stays totally locked in, his eyes darting through the swirling blizzard around him. He barks a harsh warning to his crew to keep their heads on a swivel. Out of nowhere, 3 shrieking beasts dive-bomb from the frozen canopy but Si Chen? He moves like an absolute blur. He unleashes 3 massive, blinding arcs of azure energy that rip straight through the freezing air. The monsters get completely shredded on impact, slamming into the frozen dirt. Hot crimson blood rapidly bleeds out, violently staining the pristine white snow. Collapse in the snow, Ma Long stares up with his jaw literally on the floor. Shang Zhou is absolutely mind-blown, totally paralyzed by it. Hits him like a truck. Si Chen just utterly demolished 3 D-rank nightmares entirely solo. Si Chen towers over the fresh carcasses, vicious arcs of golden lightning crackling wildly across his body, and the glowing blade gripped tight in his fist. Pure, blazing golden energy erupts from his intense stare. With his 3 squad mates freezing behind him, he bluntly hits them with the harsh reality. They are way too weak to survive this raid. He orders them to fall back immediately, and just focus on keeping their own heads attached. Then, he launches himself forward like a missile, while a massive thunderbolt of golden lightning violently detonates against the ice. He roars over the chaos, telling them to sit back and let him carry the entire boss fight. One grounded rookie screams frantically for everyone to dodge. Another squad mate violently skids across the slick ice, shrieking in pure terror. A brutal shockwave blasts one of Si Chen's bros straight backward through the air. Suddenly, the puzzle pieces click for Shang Zhou. This is exactly why Si Chen forced them through hellish agility and explosive burst training. It finally dawns on him. Si Chen literally never planned on them doing any actual damage to these beasts. The brutal boot camp was just a massive carry job, strictly designed to help the boys dodge, survive, and not become monster food. A harsh wave of reality hits, as he remembers all those times he unironically called himself the alpha dog of their dorm. The dude is absolutely eating dirt right now. It is straight up humiliating, knowing he has to be hard carried by Shi Cheng just to scrape by and graduate. Meanwhile, Shi Cheng is an absolute blur, blazing through the frozen wasteland like a phantom. With a flick of his wrists, crackling arcs of golden electricity erupt, carving right through a massive, white-furred beast. His ruthless onslaught doesn't stop there. Suddenly, colossal, pale bat creatures swarm the freezing skies above. Sporting twisted, nightmarish human faces, they unhinge their jaws and unleash but before they can dive, a massive barrage of golden thunderbolts completely blindsides the swarm. The high-voltage energy viciously shreds through their leathery wings and flesh. Watching the carnage, Xiang Zhou hypes up his squad, swearing that with Shi Cheng leading the charge, they are guaranteed to clutch this graduation test. His faith in the guy's overpowered stats is absolute. There is zero doubt left in his mind. They are bagging this W. Another teammate just stares in pure shock, realizing Shi Cheng is way too cracked to be just some average student. Honestly, he moves like a seasoned veteran who has survived countless life-or-death wars. Across the frostbitten valley, relentless, the bolts accurately lock onto the smaller, shadowy creeps lurking in the snow. Crimson sprays through the freezing air as the scorched beasts drop lifelessly from the sky. Xiang Zhou is literally left speechless, wondering exactly when his buddy turned into such an absolute unit. The power gap between them feels insanely huge now. Right then, another mangled beast crashes into the snowdrift beside him. "Watch your six," a classmate screams, spotting a fresh demon attempting a sneak attack from behind. Throwing his arms up, the student instantly ignites his fists with roaring flames to shield himself. Searing sparks explode upon impact as he violently intercepts the monsters. He screams at them to wake up, refusing to let his squad act like a bunch of useless NPCs any longer. It is time to step up. They cannot just sit back and let Shi Cheng solo the entire boss fight. Ma Long and Xiang Zhuo lock eyes, catching the drift immediately. The reality check hits hard. This is their survival test too, and they need to earn their own keep. Screaming at the top of his lungs, Xiang Zhuo gets fully hyped, roaring that their graduation is on the line. Right here, right now. Ma Long totally vibes with that energy. Thrusting his right hand forward, a blinding emerald aura flares up from his palm. Planting his boots deep into the frosty ground, he triggers his signature move, Flora Chant, Vine Lock. Dozens of thick, shadowy tendrils violently explode from his glowing hand, snaking wildly across the battlefield. He challenges the horde, demanding these freaks come and get a taste of his real magic. Whipping through the freezing wind, the brutal vines latch onto a pale demon, strangling its throat and skull in a vicious death grip. But the brute just lets out a deafening screech, flexing its muscles to effortlessly shred the dark roots and snap its bonds. Boom! A massive shockwave of blinding energy instantly blasts Xiang Zhuo straight off his feet. Skidding to a halt, he glares intensely at the beast, while his own hands begin to radiate a harsh, emerald glow. He curses out loud, totally stunned that the freak literally tanked his trap in under a second. Wasting zero time, Ma Long switches tactics and drops another ability, Cloud Chant, Frost Breeze. An absolute zero shockwave of icy blue mana slams into the target. Channeling the freezing energy through his glowing palm, Ma Long shouts out to Xiang Yu that the beast's defenses are finally cracked. "Hit it now! Let's jump this thing!" he screams. Xiang Yu doesn't hesitate for a second. He tightly clenches his right. A surging, radioactive green aura aggressively flares up around his knuckle. Locking his gaze on the frostbitten target, he promises this ugly creature isn't dodging them a second time. Syncing up flawlessly, Ma Long and Xiang Yu fuse their magic to lock the enemy down, hitting it with the ultimate tag team combo, Frost Breeze and Vine Lock. The pale abomination is utterly paralyzed, buried under massive glaciers of ice, and choked out by python-thick emerald vines. Holding the lockdown, the duo glances over and furiously signals for Xiang Zhuo to drop the hammer. Stepping up as the squad's absolute nuke, Xiang Zhuo aggressively charges forward. A swirling, superheated sphere of orange plasma ignites in his palm as he winds back his arm for the final blow, and launches a colossal, blazing fireball straight at the immobilized beast. "Eat this," he roars, as flashy text reveals his signature move, Burst Flame Bullet. The blazing inferno rips through the frigid air, hurtling toward the paralyzed. The fiery sphere slams dead center into the beast. Raging flames instantly swallow the creature whole, scorching its pristine white fur into ash. Dropping into a low stance, he summons 3 extra glowing orbs of pure heat, levitating them around his body. Firing all 3 at once, he yells out, "Damn, this thing is way tankier than I thought." The glowing projectiles slice through the wind, mercilessly tearing into the monster's chest and massive wings. Every single strike triggers a brutal, deafening explosion. Pushing his limits, Xiang Yu thrusts his hand forward, a vibrant green aura radiating from his palm. "I can't hold it back any longer," he screams, veins popping. Right beside him, Ma Long is sweating bullets, wild blue lightning sparking frantically from his fingertips. Gritting his teeth, he howls that he is completely tapped out. Way above the chaos, Xiang Zhuo leaps into the crimson, blood-red sky. Hoisting a swirling, colossal sun of blinding orange and white flames over his head, he roars that he is dropping absolutely everything he has. His eyes blaze with an intense, deadly crimson glare. Rearing his head back, he screams at the top of his lungs, "This is it, my final move." Unleashing his ultimate skill, Converged Burst Flame Bullet, Xiang Zhuo plummets from the crimson heavens like a flaming meteor aimed straight at the target. A cataclysmic blast of blinding orange light engulfs everything, the sheer shockwave ripping the very earth apart. A tiny, hovering drone chimes in, confirming the squad has officially eradicated the ghost bat creature. Coated in black soot and grime, the 3 roommates collapse onto the dirt. They are absolutely exhausted, but grinning from ear to ear. "Holy crap, we actually pulled it off," Ma Long cheers wildly. Still catching his breath, Shangzhou adds, "We actually clapped a D-tier beast." Leaning casually against a nearby tree, Si Chen watches his buddies celebrate, his face completely unbothered. The trio sprawls out across the frost-bitten earth, just staring up into the endless sky. A slick digital prompt pops up over the beast's corpse, showing they just snagged a rare ghost bat monkey fingerbone as loot. Looking over, one of the guys calls out, "Yo, Si Chen, did you catch that epic win?" Panting heavily, Shangzhou flashes a massive, cocky smirk. He boasts to Si Chen that the whole boss fight was basically a walk in the park. Si Chen glances at his hyped-up friends and offers a cool, "Not bad, guys. Solid work." But right behind him, the slaughtered corpses of countless monsters hang limply from the jagged branches of a dead. A final digital alert flashes from the floating drone. It congratulates the squad, broadcasting that every single threat inside the Devil's Cave has been totally wiped out. Back in the control room, Director Gong Xuan's jaw practically hits the floor as he stares blindly at the monitors. Sweating profusely, he stammers out, How is it possible for complete trash to pull off a win like that?" He scrambles for answers, swearing these rookies literally have zero real combat experience. His brain is short-circuiting over the fact that they just butchered a D-tier boss, way out of their league. The live camera feed zooms in, showing the lifeless carcass of the defeated beast in high definition. Beside him, Gong Lin and Headmaster Yuan Long watch the impossible footage in dead silence. Meanwhile, lounging deep in a massive leather chair, Carl Cavendish just smiles. He chuckles softly, noting that the kid is putting on one hell of a show. Squinting at Si Chen's face on the screen, Carl mutters that the boy looks way too much like an old ghost from his past. A wicked grin spreads across Carl's face as he stares at the monitor. "Si Chen," he whispers, "now I remember you." Still dripping with nervous sweat, Gong Xuan suddenly snaps. He points violently at the screen, erupting into a manic laugh as he demands everyone look at the display. A new digital window violently pops up. They announce the rival squad in the D-rank zone is absolutely tearing through the dungeon. These guys are already at the halfway mark. The live stream cuts to Gong Ting throwing down in this crazy neon blue arena. Sigrid watches in awe, pointing out that these students are in perfect sync. They're literally moving like a pro-tier guild raid. Carl Cavendish flashes a grin at the monitor. He's totally hooked, admitting this graduating class is built different. Director Gong Xuan just smirks. To him, the bloodbath is barely getting started. He promises the actual main event is still dropping soon. Deep inside a high-risk D-rank nightmare known as the Gloom Vine Grotto, a savage pack of noxious toadstools charges out of the shadows. The system tags them as D-rank floral grunts. These freaks rock massive, blood-red mushroom heads with gaping maws packed full of razor-sharp fangs. She's a floral chanter, dropping a massive debuff called Withering Hymn. System icons pop up showing the monster's power, stamina, and speed completely tanking. The blonde girl keeps shredding on her guitar, absolutely crippling their stats. A short-haired dude claps his hands together, yelling at the squad to herd the beasts into one spot. He's a star mage, channeling a spell called Astral Fusion. A blinding beam of purple cosmic energy blasts a mushroom freak right into the air, locking it down. One of the squad mates screams out for their captain. Gong Ting's eyes lock onto the target. Shing! A blinding aura erupts from his grip. He launches forward and absolutely obliterates the creature. An insane shockwave of searing orange flames and flying gore engulfs the cavern as the captain's finisher rips the beast to shreds. The guy just unleashed a brutal technique, Searing Fracture. He's a C-rank Flame Knight. Dark, swirling energy wraps around his body as he grips the hilt of his blade. One of his buddies cracks up. "Bro, these exam mobs are literally the exact same trash we farmed during practice." Another guy chimes in. Slaying these things is basically muscle memory at this point. The squad looks incredibly cocky, posing right in the center of the blazing inferno. His teammate smirks, openly bragging that the Gong family totally rigged this entire graduation test. Life is basically on easy mode when you have elite connections. He's hyping them up, claiming the championship is already in the bag. Gong Ting struts deeper into the pitch-black woods. He casually waves the squad forward, barking that it's finally time to drop the dungeon boss. Meanwhile, over in a brutal Arctic wasteland, Si Chen and his crew are trudging through They push through the blinding storm, side by side. The boys are trapped in a deadly D-rank zone known as Cloudwood Summit Peak. The entire mountain is just a massive frozen hellscape of jagged blue ice and deep powder. One of the guys pants heavily. I seriously can't believe we actually survived the climb to a D-rank peak. Suddenly, a massive threat warning flashes on screen. It identifies the incoming raid boss, a frost wraith ape. The system classifies this monstrosity as a D-rank cloud bruiser. A colossal white primate is chilling in the snow, violently devouring a smaller beast. It literally shreds the carcass with its fangs, painting the snow and its own fur dripping red. Malong starts sweating bullets, his face pale with pure terror. Dude, is that the dungeon lord? His buddy shivers, whispering that a single backhand from that thing would delete them instantly. I'm literally shaking right now. The giant ape glares back with glowing demonic red eyes and brutal battle scars across its face. It drops its bloody meal. It locks dead onto our boys. Malong realizes they're spotted. He flails his arms wildly, shrieking at the top of his lungs. It is looking right at us. We are dead. The ape launches off the cliffside at terrifying speed. It lets out a blood-curdling roar, dive-bombing straight for the squad. Si Chen's two teammates absolutely lose their minds and sprint for their lives. But Si Chen? He doesn't even flinch. He just stares up at the plummeting behemoth. Out of nowhere, he launches a devastating roundhouse kick directly into the beast's jaw. A violent spray of blood explodes as the impact shatters its face. The towering monster crashes into the frozen earth with an ear-splitting boom. A massive blue shockwave ripples outward from the hit. The beast is sent flying backward, tumbling helplessly across the powder. Si Chen drops into a low, predatory stance. Searing golden lightning starts surging wildly around his entire body. He dashes in with a blinding fast thrust, wielding a crackling electric blade. The weapon cleanly severs the ape's jaw, sending crimson mist spraying into the frosty air. Moving like a blur, Si Chen zigzags past the target. In a flash of lethal golden arcs, the colossal ape is instantly diced into a dozen bloody pieces. Malong's jaw hits the floor. He just stares at Si Chen, completely glitching out in disbelief. Bro, did you seriously just one-shot that raid boss? His buddy stands frozen in shock behind him. Suddenly, glowing system notifications start spamming the air. A system prompt flashes. Si Chen bagged a single frost wraith ape pelt, netting him a measly 200. Snowflakes drift past Si Chen's unfazed expression as his squad regroups. He's deep in thought. Something isn't adding up. Taking down the loot drops were absolute trash, too. But before he can dwell on it, a hyped-up shout shatters the silence. One of his crew is losing their mind over a massive stash of mana crystals. Yo guys, get over here, check this out, a teammate hollers, waving everyone. He gestures wildly at a massive splintered tree stump jutting from the snowbanks. Si Chen hangs back, watching his roommates sprint toward the discovery. Nestled deep inside the hollowed-out bark is a blinding cluster of radiant, pulsing gems. That overgrown ape must have stashed its hoard in here, one guy theorizes. Clocking the sheer size of the stones, he figures they've got to be mid-tier, at the bare minimum. The squad huddles around the hollow, totally mesmerized by the glowing jackpot. Dollar signs flash in their wide eyes. They're already laughing, hyping each other up about how flipping these rocks will set them up for life. Wait, don't touch that, Si Chen barks, his voice slicing through their celebration. But it's a second too late. Fingers already brush against a shimmering sapphire crystal. Boom! A monstrous shockwave of freezing energy detonates from the trunk. Sheer panic paints the roommates' faces as the blast ragdolls them backward. Dead center in the blinding neon blue flash, Si Chen anchors his stance, eyes locked in a dead serious glare. It's an ambush. A high-level ice mage just triggered a devastating skill, Arctic Nova. The earth shatters. Lethal, razor-sharp glaciers. The peaceful peak transforms into a death trap of jagged azure spikes. completely choked by blinding white fog. The icy pillars dominate the entire terrain. One of the crew gets pinned behind a barricade of frosty spears. Meanwhile, a communication module clatters onto the icy tundra. It emits a pathetic, dying buzz. Cut to the observation deck. The live stream for Team C Chen fizzles out into heavy static. A massive red error symbol flashes across the monitors. Team C Chen, signal lost. Director Gong Xuan squints at the dead feed. Hook, line, and sinker. They walked straight into a trap. High-tier beasts aren't brainless, he sneers, openly trash-talking the rookies. He labels them dead weight, absolute scrubs who can't hack it. In his eyes, this wipeout means game over for C Chen's graduation trial. But Carl cuts in, pointing out the brutal reality. Those kids are in active, lethal danger. Zhang Xuan instantly backs him up. Pulling them out alive is objective number 1 right now. He pushes to deploy the guild's elite extraction unit, acknowledging that a rescue auto fails the squad's final exam. Across the command center, dozens of monitors are either pitched black or flashing urgent hazard signs. Scanning the chaotic boards, Carl holds up a hand. Hold the line, let's give them a minute. Principal Yuan Long chimes in, tapping a data pad. He reminds the room that the students' smart bands track biometrics 24/7. Their vitals? Totally green, he reports. Plus, check the neural feedback. Not a single one of them has hit the panic button yet. He shoots the other executives a firm look. If they tap out, it's their call. We don't pull the plug for them. Gonglin hovers near the principal, keeping his mouth zipped. Meanwhile, back in the frozen hellscape, he's dumped on his behind, completely boxed in by towering crystal spires. His teeth chatter like crazy as he violently shivers, wrapping his arms tight around his chest to fight off the biting. Glancing back, he sees the rest of the squad perfectly encased in solid glacial blocks. Thank God I rolled an ice class, he chatters. That passive frost resistance is the only thing keeping his blood pumping. Without it, he'd be a human popsicle, just like his buddies. Suddenly, an eclipse-like shadow engulfs the zone. A haunting, hollow chuckle echoes through the fog, revealing a colossal warlord forged from black steel and pure permafrost. Tangled white hair whips in the wind around its helm, while a blinding azure core throbs wildly in its chest cavity. The Titan absolutely dwarfs the mountain ridge. It glares down at the shivering Malong, booming with arrogant laughter as the blizzard rages on. Craning his neck at the behemoth, Malong gulps. Is this the actual dungeon boss? His brain scrambles, finally matching the horrific sight to a page in the Academy's bestiary. It's a frostbound Lich King, he realizes, a brutal C-rank cryocaster. This thing is a pure elemental powerhouse that literally bends winter to its will. It spams massive AoE blasts and heavy crowd control knockbacks. Watch out, guys, he yells to his frozen crew. These creeps are insanely tactical. Seriously, don't underestimate it. It's playing chess, not checkers. And these freaks absolutely love playing with their food before wiping them off the map. It suddenly clicks in his head. That massive Arctic Nova Blast they just tanked? Total bait. A genius trap set by the boss itself. The Lich King hovers above, glaring down at the students through hollow, glowing eye sockets that absolutely radiate nightmare energy. Ma Long sprints desperately across the jagged, freezing terrain. Right on his tail, the towering, frostbound Lich King glides through the air, tracking his every move. Glancing over his shoulder, the harsh reality hits him. This abomination is a ridiculously rare Class C lord. There is literally pushing his limits. He tells himself to move faster. But out of nowhere, wham! A brutal, razor-sharp icicle pierces straight through his lower leg. He screams in pure agony as the sheer impact launches him backward, slamming him brutally into a frozen cliffside. Up above, the Lich King just chuckles, mocking his struggle. Collapsed on his hands and knees, Ma Long gasps for air, shivering uncontrollably in the biting snow. A glaring red holographic alert pops up. System warning. Critical trauma detected in the lower left leg. The interface coldly asks if he wants to tap out and forfeit the exam, but Ma Long glares at the screen and flat out refuses to rage quit. Lifting a violently glowing hand, he grunts that he has to unfreeze Si Chen, right now. Channeling every ounce of his willpower, he triggers his Cloud Chanter ultimate ability, Perfect Origin. This insanely clutch move blasts out, and right now, Si Chen is completely entombed inside a massive, jagged glacier, locked in deep freeze. Gritting his teeth, Ma Long knows they can still clutch this dub if he can just thaw out his bro. Suddenly, crack! Another ruthless ice spike impales his shoulder, sending Crimson bursting and howling in absolute torture. He completely loses his balance and faceplants hard into the icy slush. A brutal notification flashes on the interface. Purification failed. The Lich King erupts into echoing, arrogant laughter. Not wasting a second, the boss charges up a devastating move called Frostbone Skewers. Dozens of lethal, jagged ice daggers materialize around the floating demon. Down below, Ma Long is practically paralyzed on the frozen earth as a swarm of blaring red error prompts floods his vision. The system screams that his heart rate is crashing fast. Plus, his right arm has just sustained catastrophic damage. Once again, the cruel AI prompts him to tap out of the trial. Staring blankly at the glowing forfeit button, his entire life flashes before his eyes. He thinks back to all the times he just ghosted reality, dodging every single hurdle and hardship that ever came his way. The memory yanks him back to his high school days. A bunch of toxic bullies hurl trash at him while he just cowers, shielding his head in defeat. He remembers the sting of always being the underdog, clowned on, invisible, and totally left in the dust. He whispers that society treated him like an absolute NPC. But then, the vision shifts. He sees himself sprinting right behind Si Chen during their hardcore training. He is drenched in sweat, gasping for air, but his fists are balled up tight with pure determination. He remembers hyping himself up, saying they risked absolutely roaring with raw, unfiltered passion. He declares that despite the insane odds, he finally has the ultimate cheat code to flip his destiny. He absolutely refuses to fold. Snapping back to reality, Ma Long grinds his teeth together and screams at the top of his lungs that he is never backing down from this boss fight. Shoving his hand toward the towering glacier, a blinding, emerald-green shockwave erupts from his palm as he spam casts Perfect Origin. He channels a massive neon-blue laser beam, blasting it straight into the icy tomb holding Si Chen hostage. The frostbound Lich King just hovers there, watching the desperate struggle. Intense ripples of dark, monstrous aura swirl violently through the frosty air. Ma Long stretches his trembling arm out toward the massive. A blinding, sapphire glow detonates right out of his hand. He unleashes a guttural roar, burning through every last drop of mana and stamina he has left. Sinking into the thick snowbanks, he directs that overwhelming surge of energy right at the jagged spikes. And then, deep inside the frost, Si Chen's eyes rip wide open. They flare up with an aggressive, neon yellow intensity as the beast finally wakes up. Igniting his own core power, Si Chen shatters his icy prison, bursting free in a deafening, cinematic explosion. Thousands of razor-sharp, sapphire splinters rain. He dashes forward with unreal, glitch-like velocity. The frostbound Lich King is absolutely stunned. Its skeletal jaw drops wide open, and those glowing blue eye sockets flare up in pure, unadulterated panic. Blurring across the snowfield like a golden shooting star, Si Chen instantly closes the gap and catches his falling bro. Totally drained and drenched in freezing sweat, Ma Long flashes his partner a weak but genuine smile. He chuckles weakly, muttering that after all that hype, the guy still had to bust himself out of the fridge. But the relief in his eyes is real. Catching his breath, Si Chen locks eyes with him and drops the truth. He honestly carried his weight out there. Glancing at the nasty gashes on his friend, Ma Long anxiously asks if he is going to survive this. Brushing it off, Si Chen smirks, claiming it is just a scratch, and he already cauterized the damage. Suddenly, the bedrock beneath them starts vibrating violently, with a deafening bass-boosted rumble. Squaring up, Si Chen breaks down the stats. They are facing a Class C Cloud Elemental raid boss, the Frostbound Lich King. He warns Ma Long that this thing hits like a freight train, And if they get hit with that freeze crowd control again, Si Chen glances back as the ground violently shudders beneath them. Beside him, Mao Long goes completely pale, his eyes practically bulging out of his skull in pure terror. Hovering high in the freezing atmosphere, the frost-bound Lich King throws its skeletal arms into the air. A gigantic, razor-sharp sapphire ice crystal materializes right above the boss. The system flags this apocalyptic strike as Giga Frost Nova. Standing right on the edge of a frozen precipice, Si Chen stares dead ahead at the blinding azure glare. Up above, the undead king unhinges its bony jaw, unleashing a deafening cackle. Mao Long stares up at the descending doom, his face locked in absolute horror. He stammers out, asking how a mere monster could possibly channel a frost nova of this insane scale. Panic takes over as he shrieks that there is zero chance for them to evade this. A colossal cobalt orb, packed with lethal icicles, detonates right over the tundra. The entire mountain aggressively quakes as the spell rapidly inflates. In a split second, a devastating white shockwave completely washes out the battlefield with a blinding, radioactive glare. The kinetic force from the blast is absolutely cataclysmic. Floating untouched in the blizzard, the Lich King howls with victorious laughter. Its glowing sapphire sockets peer down through the mist, eager to admire the absolute carnage it just unleashed. The entire gorge has literally been transformed into a wasteland of towering, razor-sharp ice pillars. Mao Long gets launched violently backward through the air, completely shell-shocked. Yet, right in ground zero, Si Chen stands casually anchored inside a swirling vortex. He just casually swapped his active class to the level 16 Greyhound King. A holographic prompt pops up, highlighting his broken frosty physique passive. This insane trait grants him 100% immunity to freezing temps. Plus, it massively buffs all of his defensive stats whenever he fights in sub-zero biomes. Completely oblivious, the undead tyrant stretches its bony jaws wide, roaring with manic glee. Sprawled out on the frostbitten dirt, Mao Long spots the entirely new aura radiating off his teammate. Brain completely short-circuiting, he desperately questions what the heck just happened to Si Chen's ability. He points out that the guy was strictly running a lightning assassin build. Dripping with cold sweat, Mao Long stammers, asking if his buddy hit the ultimate genetic lottery. Si Chen remains totally unfazed, letting the heavy azure currents violently whip around his frame. The puzzle pieces finally click for Mao Long. He is looking at a legendary dual-class awakener, someone who can literally spam two totally different skill trees simultaneously. Without warning, Si Chen's irises ignite with a piercing sapphire flare. His voice drops cold as he apologizes for underestimating the threat, taking full blame for dragging his squad into this death trap. He violently clenches his fist. Blinding white voltage fiercely erupts from his knuckles as he flatly declares that playtime is officially over. A slick system prompt flashes into view, confirming the instant class swap. Si Chen has now morphed into the level 16 Abyssal Fiend. He effortlessly grips a colossal, neon-pink greatsword that emits a terrifying high-frequency hum. Locking eyes with the boss, he promises to execute this monster on the spot. In this world, an Awakener is strictly hardlocked to a single class. The odds of rolling a second job are mathematically microscopic. We are literally talking about a 1 in 10 million miracle. The emblem of the clouds matched with the crest of lightning. These mythological anomalies are universally known as dual classers. Mao Long is having a total meltdown, realizing his teammate is one of these unbelievably busted prodigies. There are literally less than 10 of these walking cheat codes alive on the entire planet. These icons are global superstars, aggressively Mao Long lets out a hysterical shriek as the gravity of his friend's dual-class flex truly sinks in. Si Chen just stands there, absolutely radiating a fierce neon blue pressure, while donning a sinister white two entire skill trees. Then, a massive system alert pops up, showing his raw strength and stamina literally tripling in real time. Mao Long shrieks a second time, his mind completely shattering from the sheer absurdity of it. He zeroes in on the heads-up display and realizes Si Chen is not just dual class. The madman actually possesses. Si Chen's gaze burns with an aggressive azure intensity, instantly capping out his stamina and strength to the absolute maximum limit. Si Chen coolly notes that every single job in his arsenal is ridiculously overpowered. Without missing a beat, he rockets himself straight up into the frozen sky. Engulfed in a violent hurricane of neon pink and purple voltage, he readies a devastating cleave with his colossal energy sword. The undead tyrant lingers in the distance, utterly dwarfed by the Mao Long sits there, absolutely paralyzed by awe and pure dread. He flashes back to the overwhelmingly oppressive bloodlust the boss radiated just moments ago. And it hits him. The pressure rolling off Si Chen right now is infinitely more terrifying than the Lich King could ever dream of being. Connecting with devastating force, the blade sinks in, and Si Chen goes full sicko mode, triggering his ultimate ability, Triple Calamity Overload. He brings down a colossal vertical slash, completely flooding the screen with blinding neon pink and violet energy. The raw kinetic force of the blade absolutely shreds the beast into pieces. The Lich King's skeletal frame literally explodes, raining down shattered white bone and shredded fabric. Dropping to one knee, he grips his radiant weapon as the boss dissolves into nothing. Right on cue, a massive victory screen pops up overhead. A blinding golden pillar of light engulfs him, while the system crunches the data. He just bagged a massive 5,000 experience points from that absolute bloodbath. Down at the bottom of his HUD, a level up alert flashes, confirming our guy just hit level 17. Then, the sweet loot window drops. It confirms he secured a brand new drop, the Frostbone Skewers. Over in the snow, Malong is just staring at the shattered remains of the Monster Lord. His jaw is basically on the floor. He hypes up Si Chen, saying he totally knew he had this in the bag. I mean, the dude literally one-shot a C-rank Monster Lord. But Si Chen just casually asks if their other two roommates are still chilling inside those giant ice blocks. He checks if Malong even has enough mana left to thaw them out. Cue the panic. Malong realizes he totally blanked on his squad, sprinting frantically across the snowfield toward the massive ice spikes. He is screaming that he completely forgot about Xiang Zhou and Xiang Yu, begging them to hold on just a little longer while he rushes to the rescue. Si Chen just hangs back, watching his friends scramble like a madman. Back on the ground sits the hollowed-out skull of the frostbound Lich King. Suddenly, a holographic prompt hovers right above it. The interface spells out one intense command in glowing white text: Devour. Without hesitating, Si Chen reaches out toward the boss's remains. A blinding crimson aura erupts from his palm, radiating with insane, pulsating energy. Up top, a blood-red digital progress bar starts filling up, flashing the word Devouring. Swirling vortexes of white mist literally suck the essence of the Lich King's skull straight into Si Chen's core. A system alert pops, confirming the absorption is 100% complete. A digital card materializes in mid-air. It flashes the Lich King's portrait and officially unlocks a brand new class, Cloud Mage. The stats are fully laid out with star ratings for strength, speed, and mental fortitude. It even lists his newly snagged abilities, Frost Bone Skewers and Arctic Nova. Si Chen mutters to himself, realizing he just secured the Cloud Mage class. He realizes this is literally the first time he has ever unlocked a class completely outside the dream realm. He just stares stoically at the frozen wasteland. Glancing over, he notices the tiny exam drone is completely encased in solid ice. His mind flashes back to that massive Arctic Nova blast from earlier. It hits him. The examiners saw absolutely nothing. His overpowered move was completely hidden because the lens was frozen shut. But hey, he figures they still have plenty of time on the clock. He is dead set on carrying his squad to a flawless score. Meanwhile, way out in the background, Malong is sweating bullets, pumping out mana to unfreeze the boys. Suddenly, another glowing interface manifests right in front of Si Chen. A bold notification blinks. Class level up. His current class experience is totally maxed out at 100%. He unlocks a fresh stat star. The system prompts him, letting him know he can dump this point into upgrading his attributes. Staring at the shiny icon on his screen, Si Chen is genuinely caught off guard. Did I seriously just earn a free star point? The icon glimmers, displaying a multiplier symbol, right next to a glowing emerald star. Cut to the other side of the arena. Team Gong Ting is currently trapped deep inside. They are locked in a brutal brawl with a D-rank Flora Mage boss, the giant man-eater. This thing is a massive, blood-red botanical nightmare, packed with razor-sharp teeth and whipping green vines. One student gets violently yeeted across the cave by a thick vine, screaming in agony. Another teammate is holding the line, his fists wrapped tightly in glowing violet chains. Sweat is literally pouring down his face as he strains against the monster's insane pull. He grits his teeth, completely mind-blown. How on earth is a D-rank boss this overpowered? He barks frantically at his squad, screaming at them to unleash everything and burst this thing down. His voice cracks as he yells that his defenses are failing. He absolutely cannot hold the— Another classmate grips a bow, forged from pure crackling golden lightning. He draws back the string, sending a shower of fierce sparks flying into the air. "This boss is way too tanky," he yells. Its HP bar isn't even moving. A jagged bolt of yellow electricity blasts straight into the colossal red Flora beast's gaping jaw. Still, a teammate screams out that the monstrous creature lashes out, whipping its massive, spiked green vines across the battlefield with an ear-splitting crack. Several squad members get violently launched into the sky. Someone shrieks in absolute terror. "It broke loose! We're dead!" Desperately clawing at the pitch-black dirt, one guy is completely drenched in cold sweat, his eyes wide with pure, unadulterated— "What the hell do we do now?" he begs his crew. "They never threw anything this insanely broken at us during the combat sims," he cries. Glancing back into the shadowy depths of the cavern, another student gasps out that Gong Ting is their absolute last resort. He frantically wonders if things are going any better on his end of the nightmare. Deep inside the gloomy cavern, Gong Ting stands his ground, while his support squad channels glowing golden runes, relentlessly pumping him full of raw mana. Digital holographic stats flash before his eyes, confirming a massive spike in his stamina, sheer brute strength, and elemental output. "Are you stacked up yet?" a teammate hollers, just as Gong Ting gets entirely engulfed in a blinding, raging inferno of orange fire. His pupils ignite with a lethal, piercing crimson glare. His face is stone cold. Locking his deadly gaze onto the target, he mutters, "Yeah, that's plenty." Gong Ting blasts off the ground, rocketing forward at breakneck speed. A colossal shockwave of flames detonates right behind him as he lunges straight for the beast. He viciously slashes his heavy blade directly into the towering botanical nightmare. Blurring into a savage streak of blazing fire and pitch-black aura, he cleanly decapitates the monster, carving right through its massive, armored stalk. With fiery orange energy bleeding from his eyes, he roars, "Sever!" with earth-shattering intensity. He triggers his ultimate technique, the devastating Sorrow Blade Burst. An apocalyptic shockwave of blinding yellow and scorching orange hellfire completely consumes the battlefield. Watching the spectacular fireworks display, his crew absolutely loses their minds. A blonde-haired guy laughs hysterically, hyping up Gong Ting as an absolute legend. "The president is just built different," another student screams. "Just look at those insane damage numbers." A system prompt pops up, officially congratulating Team Gong Ting for totally dominating the D-rank raid. The holographic timer locks in their clear speed at exactly 35 minutes. The entire squad bursts into arrogant laughter, flexing their half-hour run. They cockily claim that nobody else in the academy will ever come close to touching their flawless record. Dead in the center of the smoldering ash, Gong Ting just stands there in absolute silence, his enchanted blade still humming with lethal energy. Strolling down a massive corridor, one guy smirks at his buddy, mentioning how even a trash-tier F-rank zone usually takes normies at least an hour to clear. He chuckles darkly, claiming that anyone walking out of the gates right now has to be total garbage who rage quit early. Meanwhile, dozens of battered students are slumped across rows of long metal. The majority are wrapped in heavy bandages, looking completely shattered. One poor dude is literally curled up on the floor, gripping his head in sheer terror. "Please, don't kill me," he whimpers, traumatized. His partner urgently shakes him, telling him to snap out of it because they teleported out ages ago. Nearby, a girl shivers, whispering about how insanely cursed those mobs were. From the sidelines, a bystander sneers, gossiping that Si Chen's pathetic squad clearly chickened out. Right on cue, Si Chen is spotted chilling in the far corner. Leaning casually against the cold wall, he scrolls through his phone with zero stress. Right beside him, his 3 dorm mates are totally out of it. Huddled tightly under thick gray trauma blankets, they look absolutely drained. One of the guys even has a battered medical crutch propped up against his chair. While Si Chen zones out in the lobby, the arrogant Gong Cheng struts right up to him, a nasty smirk plastered on his face. He loudly mocks Si Chen for supposedly failing the exam, tauntingly asking what happened to all that big talk from before. Gong Ting, watching from a few steps away, barks at Gong Cheng to back off. He suddenly spots a highly intimidating squad of suited VI. The vice chairman just pulled up, Gong Ting mutters sharply, ordering his crew to immediately fall in line and show some respect. Carl Cavendish strides into the chaotic lobby, loudly clapping his hands. "Absolutely phenomenal work out there today," he booms across the room. He praises everyone for putting on an unbelievably god-tier showcase during the trials. Cavendish then swaggers right down the middle of the crowded hall. He's absolutely buzzing, hyping Carl up as the absolute apex predator of the globe. He's totally convinced the legend is making a beeline straight for their squad. Gong Ting eagerly extends a hand, but Carl Cavendish completely ghosts him, breezing right past the rich kid and his entire crew. Gong Ting's jaw literally drops as he whips his head around. Carl plants himself dead in front of Si Chen, praising the rookie as an absolute phenomenon. Gripping Si Chen's shoulder, the VIP points out a mind-blowing stat. This kid just blitzed through a D-rank Devil's Cave in a staggering 21 minutes. He drops the mic, stating that even veteran raid squads would sweat trying to pull that off. He straight up calls the run a sheer masterclass. Gong Ting loses his absolute mind, screaming in pure denial. In his head, he's still cursing Si Chen and his crew as nothing but bottom feeders. How on earth did those losers conquer a D-rank zone? And to do it in just 21 minutes, the math ain't mathing for him. Si Chen plays it cool and collected, while his 3 boys are grinning ear to ear in the background, practically vibrating as they greet the VIP. Internally, Si Chen is sizing the guy up. He knows exactly who he's dealing with, the vice chairman of the massive World Guild Alliance. We are talking about the undisputed second in command of the entire planet. Why would a titan like him bother slumming it at a high school? Reading the room, Carl shoots the kid a knowing smirk. He asks the rookie to drop his name. Mentally, Carl is doing a victory lap. This little detour was totally worth the hassle after all. Pivoting to Gonglin, Carl throws the man a bone. He smoothly compliments the young heir of the Gong dynasty for putting on a solid show. Leading a squad through a D-rank dungeon at his age, he admits that is undeniably a major flex. He strokes the guildmaster's ego, saying the apple clearly didn't fall far from the tree with coaching like that. Gonglin bows his head, acting all humble about the massive praise. Checking the time, Carl announces he's got to bounce, and his entourage sweeps right out of the hall. As he walks away, Carl silently credits the principal's insane luck. Scoring 2 god-tier rookies in the same batch is like catching lightning in a literal once-in-a-millennium draft pick. Meanwhile, director Gong Xuan is visibly sweating bullets, looking stressed out of his mind. Clearing his throat awkwardly, he grabs the mic to drop the official stats for both rival squads. He breaks down the impossible math. Both teams just locked in a dead heat with flawless scores. The crowd holds its breath for the ultimate verdict. Boom! The director declares a co-championship. The reward? Every single member of both rosters just secured a golden ticket straight into the elite Empire Guild. Si Chen's crew erupts into pure chaos. They are screaming at the top of their lungs, hyping up the fact that they just hit the ultimate jackpot and secured a fast track to the 1%. But over on the sidelines, Gong Ting is brooding, giving absolutely nothing away. Tapping the mic, the director chimes back in with the fine print. He declares that the 2 shot callers, Gong Ting and Si Chen, are being fast-tracked into upper management roles at the Empire Guild. And the cherry on top? They have to slice the 1 million buck bounty right down the middle. Gong Ting's eye twitches, clearly blindsided by the split. Si Chen just stares him down with ice in his veins. Running the numbers in his head, he realizes he's only walking away with 500 grand. Reality check hits hard. He owes Qingji a flat million in less than 30 days. He mentally scrambles, trying to figure out how to grind out that missing $500,000 as fast as humanly possible. Stepping out from the shadows, Gong Ting finally snaps. Co-champions? Forget that. He locks eyes with our boy, barking out an aggressive challenge. He demands a winner-takes-all, one-on-one duel to settle the score. Poor director Gong Xuan looks like he's about to have a heart attack, sweating buckets. The whole auditorium goes dead silent, VIPs and rookies alike grabbing their metaphorical popcorn. The director nervously leans in, hissing under his breath. He tells the rich kid to drop the ego trip, reminding him that the bracket officially ended in a draw. The crowd assumes this is a massive win for everyone, fully expecting Si Chen to take the money and run. But instead, our MC tilts his head and asks the golden question. If I win, do I bag the whole million? He's literally betting it all on a tiebreaker. The director practically chokes on his own spit, completely floored by the sheer audacity. Gong Ting smirks. Beat me, and every last penny is yours. Off to the side, Carl is just soaking up the drama. A wicked smile creeps across the VIP's face as he notes how spicy things just got. The main event is just getting started. The two alphas close the distance, squaring up until they are practically chest to chest. It is an absolute death glare competition. Without blinking, Si Chen asks the rich kid exactly how they plan to finish this blood feud and crown a real king. Cut to a bit later. Si Chen is chilling on a plush sofa in some high-end VIP lounge. He's on a call, laying out his cash flow problem. He begs for a 7-day grace period, admitting he fell 500 grand short of his payday, all thanks to that annoying co-champion technicality. Si Chen briefs Qingji on his high-stakes deathmatch against the rich brat. The showdown goes down in exactly 1 week, and the arena, a completely unmapped wild devil's cave, way off school grounds. Qingji totally freaks out, warning him that wild zones are an absolute meat grinder for rookies. He stresses that neither of them has the official guild stats to survive that kind of raid. But Si Chen just smirks, telling his buddy to chill out. He promises to cough up the rest of the cash right after he crushes the upcoming match. Plus, he swears to hand over every single monster drop he loots from the dungeon run. He tells the guild as a massive tip for pushing his deadline back by a week. Qingji covers his mouth in utter disbelief, mind blown by your built different Si Chen actually is. The guy isn't sweating at all about charging headfirst into a lethal wild demon's den. Qingji is genuinely stunned. This dude's only stressing over clearing his debt and interest. Swirling a tiny shot glass of water, Si Chen casually drops a bomb. He admits there is a totally different motive for his visit today. Something way more crucial than dodging his loan sharks. Qingji locks eyes with him, practically holding his breath for the drop. Si Chen braces himself. The room drops into pin-drop silence before he finally spills the tea about this massive secret he just teased. Out of nowhere, Qingji shoots up from the couch, absolutely floored, just staring at him completely speechless. Flash forward to the afternoon of June 17th, landing right at Qingshui Middle School, deep in Kangchang County. Si Yun stretches her arms out in the courtyard, vibing hard because her grueling finals are officially history. A swarm of kids trail behind her, totally stressing over those brutal multiple-choice traps on the exam. One guy groans that he did not even comprehend half the stuff on the paper. Si Yun is just breathing a huge sigh of relief, officially done with the grind. She peeks at her screen with a cute, knowing smirk. Summer break starts right now, but then it hits her. Today is the exact day of her big brother's massive graduation. Trial. Cut to a memory from 4 years back. Si Chen aggressively waves a thick envelope, hyping up that the academy actually picked up on some wild elemental energy inside his body. He is literally screaming that the National Awakener University just let him in. Si Yun stares up at him, her eyes completely sparkling. She gasps, asking if he is going to be a legendary hero, just like their mom and dad. Grabbing his little sister's hands in a dusty room crammed with books, Si-Chen promises he is going to lock in with a top-tier guild and rake in insane cash. He swears on his life to pull her out of the trenches and give her the ultimate lifestyle. Then he vows to finally crack the cold case behind their parents vanishing into thin air. Si-Yun beams a massive, super wholesome smile. She hypes him up, declaring he is the absolute greatest and is destined to be a top-ranked powerhouse. Fast forward through the years, and Si-Chen is now grinding through his final year at the academy. He lets out a heavy, defeated sigh, agonizing over why his abilities are completely ghosting him. Si-Yun hovers close, softly reassuring him that it is all good. Flashing an exhausted, totally drained smirk, he just listens as she cheers him on to keep pushing through the grind. Since stepping foot on that campus, Si-Chen put in more blood, sweat, and tears than literally anyone else. But he tragically ended up as the lone outlier who totally flopped at awakening. He was forced to just sit back and watch every single peer unlock their insane cheat skills one by one, stuck in the background with zero powers. Suddenly, a random girl sprints right up to her. This hyped-up classmate is practically vibrating with energy as she screams Si-Yun's name. She demands to know if Si-Yun caught the massive T. Apparently, the National Awakener University just cranked out 2 absolute prodigy grads. This cycle. Strolling down the hallway together, the friends start spilling all the details, gushing about how both legends hard-carried their squads to flawless scores. She even claims the Guild Alliance's vice boss personally hyped them up. The rumor mill is going absolutely crazy, and apparently, it is about to put their entire county on the map. Then it clicks in her brain. Si-Yun's big bro actually goes to that exact elite school. She instantly asks how he is doing. Si-Yun drops her gaze, anxiety totally flooding her system. She has literally zero clue what to say, just letting out an awkward squeak. Out of nowhere, a dude rocking messy pink hair rolls up. He locks eyes with Si-Yun and hits her with a smooth, "Good afternoon." He casually mentions securing an exclusive VIP penthouse at the Zifeng Tower. Claiming she better be totally free by 8 p.m., he drops a bold invite. Si-Yun's bestie is shook to her core, slapping a hand over her mouth. She furiously whispers, asking how on earth she scored the ultimate school heartthrob. Si-Yun just stares at the floor, totally shutting down. Without warning, she pivots and totally books it out of there. Her friend and Jin Duoxin are left standing there, utterly clueless. Jutong yells out, demanding to know why she is practically sprinting. Mid-run, a heartbreaking image flashes through Si-Yun's mind. Shadows of all those elite students, flexing their trophies and popping off, while her own brother is just completely broken on the floor, sobbing because his powers straight up failed him. She agonizes over how his peers are literally going viral right now for their god-tier scores, making her stomach tie into absolute knots. The pain of him being left utterly powerless is hitting her way too hard. She admits to herself that this whole situation is just completely shattering her heart. Determined to fix his vibe, she decides to rush back and cook up an epic feast for him. Cut to the dark night of June 17th. Stepping into the siblings' cozy apartment, a massive feast dominates the table, featuring a bubbling, mouth-watering sukiyaki hot pot front and center. Si-Chen's jaw practically drops at the massive spread. He stares, completely blown away, asking Si-Yun how on earth she managed to whip up this crazy feast on such short notice. Settling in across from his sister, he eagerly grabs his chopsticks, instantly hyping up the insanely good aroma filling the room. Meanwhile, the TV buzzes in the background with a breaking news broadcast. The anchor reports that Dongshin National Awakener University just wrapped up its highly anticipated graduation combat exams. The broadcast highlights that VIP Vice Chairman Carl Cavendish actually showed up in person to watch. Completely unfazed, Si-Chen just keeps casually slurping his food with a relaxed smirk. Propping her chin on her hand, Si-Yun watches her brother with this heartbreakingly gentle gaze. Her mind is racing, totally convinced that he is just putting up a brave front to mask the pain. She is absolutely certain that bombing the assessment totally crushed his spirit. And it seriously stresses her out that he refuses to show even a hint of sadness. But then, the anchor drops a massive bombshell, announcing that this year's graduation battles ended in a super rare, historic tie for first place. Flashy breaking news graphics plaster the screen, hyping up the discovery of two absolute prodigies. The reporter breaks down how these elite students flawlessly carried their squads to totally perfect, maxed-out score. The scene cuts to Vice Chairman Carl Cavendish, totally surrounded by a sea of flashing cameras and microphones at a packed press conference. He absolutely raves about the talent on display, specifically shouting out one squad leader who completely dominated the event. Si-yoon is half watching the screen when the anchor drops the actual name of this hyped-up student, Si-chen. Her head immediately snaps away from the TV, her face freezing in pure, unadulterated shock, eyes wide as saucers, a nervous bead of sweat rolling down her cheek. Her brain totally short-circuits as the massive realization hits her that the absolute legend who bagged the perfect score is her own brother. She just keeps echoing his name in her head, staring blankly into space like her reality just broke. Meanwhile, over at the Gong brothers' private facility, the vibe is pitch black. A heavy leather whip rests on the cold floor, surrounded by fresh, gruesome blood spatters. His older brother coldly spits out that he orchestrated the perfect stage and invited all the right VIPs, only to watch Gong Ting absolutely choke the performance. He brutally rubs it in that Gong Ting failed to secure the win. Clutching a nasty, gushing slash across his chest, Gong Ting glares up, desperately gasping, "No!" Barely managing to keep himself from collapsing. Gong Lin ruthlessly trashes him, calling him a pathetic letdown for losing to some literal nobody. He barks that Gong Ting has completely lost his privileges to call the shots. The older brother coldly reveals he has already pulled the strings to set up the ultimate tiebreaker duel in exactly 7 days. Staring down with icy disgust, he vows to step in and crush this problem himself. Gong Lin aggressively declares that their family will snatch the crown, no matter who gets destroyed in the process. Back on the TV broadcast, the anchor echoes the wild reality of the graduation exam ending in an impossible tie. The school literally unearthed twin prodigies, who both pulled off flawless runs. Vice Chairman Carl Cavendish drops Si-chen's name once again, totally fanboying over his elite skills. Si-yoon's eyes practically bulge out of her skull, utterly paralyzed by the mind-blowing news. Glued to the screen, she finally processes that the media is legitimately hyping up her brother. She slowly pivots her gaze towards Si-chen, who is just chilling there, quietly sipping his drink like an absolute boss. Her mind scrambles, questioning if her little brother actually hard-carried a squad to a flawless victory. She cannot even fathom how he climbed to such an insane god-tier rank. Staring at him, a super tender smile breaks across her face as happy tears well up. She warmly thinks to herself, what an absolute dork. Flashback to June 17th, 2157, the exact day of the brutal graduation trials. Vice Chairman Carl Cavendish is kicking back in an upscale joint, smoothly picking up a slice of premium steak with his chopsticks. Flashing a massive grin, he claims this entire trip was a total win because he stumbled upon an absolute diamond in the rough. Sitting right across from him is Ling Yu, and Carl probes her, demanding to know why an elite like her joined Si-chen's squad. He casually tosses a top-secret manila folder onto the table. Flipping through the insane battle stats, he points out that Si-chen literally speedran a D-tier dungeon in just 21 minutes flat. Carl stresses that even a squad of hardcore, seasoned pros would sweat trying to pull that off. Ling Yu leans in and drops the bombshell that she actually Si-chen's hidden method. She exposes that, right before the exams, this crazy dude was solo grinding in a lethally unstable, unmapped devil's cave. Carl's jaw practically drops at this insane revelation. Cut to the past, where Si-chen is standing completely alone in a brutally freezing, snow-blasted wasteland. Deep inside the terrifying Devil's Tower, his holographic system interface flashes open, now flexing as a level 17 lightning assassin, Sai. Chen watches his core stats absolutely skyrocket from the level up, with his speed instantly maxing out at a crazy 405. A glowing pop-up alerts him that he just secured a brand new star point to pump up his build. With exactly 10 days left until the brutal graduation exams, he admits he has been locked in, endlessly grinding this exact floor without taking a break. All this hardcore sweat and blood finally paid off, letting him successfully evolve his class star levels. His power numbers just keep rapidly ticking upward on the glowing screen, but unfortunately, the vibe shifts real quick. Two incredibly toxic, dark purple phantom lions start stalking across the ice. Out of absolutely nowhere, a gigantic, terrifying purple phantom lion king stomps onto the battle. Chen realizes the mobs on this floor are actively mutating into lethal B-rank bosses. Without hesitating, he triggers Divine Flash, launching himself across the battlefield like a literal lightning strike. He crashes into the massive Lion King, bringing his blade down in an explosive, blinding arc. Chen scoffs. Mutated or not, they are still just trash mobs to him. He flexes that he could end this whole clash in a matter of seconds. The actual nightmare is their sheer numbers. Dozens of ghostly lions start cresting the frozen ridge, swarming in like a plague. Every single time he wipes out a squad, a fresh wave instantly spawns in to take their place. Slicing through the air, he sidesteps a lunging purple beast. He tells himself to hold out just a bit longer, pushing his physical stamina to the absolute brink. Cloaked in crackling golden lightning, he dashes forward. A surge of electric energy blasts a purple lion, slamming it brutally into the snowbanks. But the toll is heavy. Chen collapses to his knee. It hits him. The massive alpha beast is completely just playing with its food. His expression darkens. If this keeps up, his energy tank is going to hit absolute zero in no time. Kicking off the ground, he vaults high into the sky, blade in hand, narrowly evading another feral ambush. Out of nowhere, a blinding azure aura engulfs him as the system chimes in, announcing a total class swap. His eyes flare with a piercing sapphire glare, while frost crystallizes across his armor. He smirks, declaring it is time to take this new kit for a spin. The morph completes, upgrading him into a level 17 Frostbone Skeleton King. A sleek holographic card flashes his insane new Cloud Mage stats and cryo skills. Instantly, he triggers the Cloud Mage ability, Frost Spike. A relentless barrage of razor-sharp icicles rains down from the frozen heavens. The projectiles carpet bomb the tundra, triggering colossal sapphire detonations all around the alpha predator. Chen grits his teeth, realizing his stamina is practically running on fumes. He knows he has to speedrun the rest of this fight before his entire arsenal goes on cooldown. Firing off another brutal volley, the homing ice shards arc through the wind and slam into the roaring boss, sparking a massive shockwave of frost. Without warning, an ominous pitch-black rift tears open high above the battlefield. Gigantic magical rings of frost manifest. The monstrous cats freeze in panic as their infinite spawn glitch finally cuts off. Chen raises his frost-bitten hand toward the heavens. The titan-sized alpha stares upward, jaw completely dropped. This is his ultimate finisher, the Frost Blast Bomb. A nuke-sized sphere of pure winter eclipses the sky, casting a terrifying shadow over the paralyzed pack. Locking eyes with his prey, he vows that nobody is making it out alive. The giant beast lets out one final, desperate roar. Chen launches himself into the stratosphere. Seconds later, a blindingly loud eruption of icy destruction absolutely obliterates the landscape. The dust clears to show the alpha trapped inside a jagged, inescapable glacier. Gripping a radiant magenta blade, Chen brings the executioner's strike down. A glowing prompt pops up, confirming his class evolution is fully locked in. With his eyes burning a toxic blue, he casually announces that Floor 1 of the Dreamscape has officially been conquered. Instantly, he fires up a Stellar Warrior tech, Triple Cataclysm, set to maximum overdrive. He blasts the frozen beast with an overwhelming laser of neon pink devastation. The overpowered strike cleaves right through the boss like butter. Chen lands gracefully in the powder, his neon sword illuminating the wreckage. Carcasses of the shadow lions litter the cratered zone, mixed with shattered glaciers. Suddenly, one of the dead mobs starts glowing a pale white. Its physical form begins dissolving into thick, shadowy mist. His eyes shifting to a predatory gold, Si-Chen coldly orders the fading spirit to spill its secrets. Thrusting palm forward, he demands to scan its exact class data. As the beast totally evaporates into smoke, Si-Chen absorbs its dark essence right into his glowing hand. That raw energy condenses, forging an epic purple hologram card, Lion King Phantom Mane. Inspecting the hovering loot, he admits he has never actually encountered a Tamer build before. He glances back at the starlit tundra, exactly where that coward of a boss had been camping behind its minions. It all clicks. No wonder the alpha refused to throw hands directly. It had trash base stats and was just hiding behind its summon pool the entire time. Scrolling through the card's perks, he realizes the teleportation skill, which lets him snap to a summon to guard it, is crazy overpowered. Even better, the second passive gives him the power to force tame enemy monsters. He grins, knowing this aggressive taming mechanic is the exact buff he has been looking for. There is a catch, though. The system notes that the capture rate only spikes if the target is on life support. Si-Chen smirks. So, if he wants to snatch up a top-tier pet, he just has to beat the absolute brakes off it first. Trudging through the frost, Si-Chen crosses the threshold into a scorching wasteland. He scans the endless dunes, realizing the second level is nothing but a dead zone. Dead ahead, a colossal skeleton rests halfway buried in the sand. The sheer scale of the bones is absolutely mind-blowing. Right beside it, a neon orange beacon shoots up into the sky, triggering a system alert. The gateway to level 2 is officially unlocked. Suddenly, twin magenta eyes flare up from the shadows of the skull. Whipping his head around, Si-Chen cautiously approaches a fractured ribcage sticking out of the dirt. Hiding inside, a pint-sized, amethyst-colored beast with glowing eyes, snarling at him like a cornered animal. Smirking, he calls the little guy a total firecracker, realizing he is going to have to do this the hard way. Golden electricity sparks to life, shaping into a crackling blade in his grip. He announces that playtime is officially over. A quick thought crosses his mind about how the graduation trials are going without him, but he immediately refocuses on the fierce mutant. Sensing an insanely high-tier bloodline radiating off the beast, Si-Chen yells out that he is taming it by force, right here, right now. He unleashes a massive bolt of golden thunder, obliterating the skeletal armor. Plop! Out drops a tiny, fluffy white cub into the dirt. Staring down at the furball, he smirks, calling out its fake innocence. He tells the little actor to drop the whole helpless act. Flashing a knowing grin, he flexes that absolutely zero secrets can slip past his eye of the watcher, exposing the hidden status of the cub as a literal Lion King. The snowy cub blinks, completely stunned. Leaving it dumbfounded, Si-Chen turns his back and starts hiking across the dunes. Figuring the beast is down for the count, he decides it is time to push forward. But out of nowhere, a holographic pink interface glitches into reality right behind him. Buzzing like crazy, the system chimes with a wild notification. An incoming familiar pact. The prompt highlights a couple of insane passive buffs. Buff number 1, a direct 50-50 split of all XP gained between the player and the pet. And buff number 2 cuts the mana cost for instant summoning straight down the middle. Si-Chen glances back, completely caught off guard. The little white lion is just chilling on the sand, waiting. Right above its head, a floating tag flags it as ready for a pact, revealing its true identity, Lion King Leo. To seal the deal, the interface prompts him for a final yes or no. Crouching down, he looks the cub in the eyes and asks if it really wants to ride with him. The tiny beast gazes back and lets out a fierce, determined yip. He lays it all on the line, swearing that he is going to clear every single level of this hellish tower. He gives a harsh reality check. The mobs up ahead are only going to get deadlier. He warns the cub that taking serious damage, or even getting straight up wiped out, is a massive risk. Are you absolutely sure about this? He pushes. The lion barks back, locked in and ready. Shutting his eyes for a brief second, he respects the resolve of the cub. His eyelids snap open, pupils glowing a vibrant magenta, and he shouts his approval to lock in the pact. A chime rings out, confirming the bond with Lion King Leo is secured. A slick new stat card projects into the air, crowning him as an elite star beast tamer. The UI scrolls through his freshly unlocked passives, locking in that sweet shared XP pool and the instant warp ability. Flashing a confident grin, he points a thumb toward the exit, telling his new partner it is time to roll. The little lion trots joyfully by his leg as they march straight into a swirling, fiery rift. He reminds the cub to stay sharp and watch its own back while he handles the aggro. Barking its promise, the furball hops right through the towering warp gate. The duo materializes inside a pitch-black, jagged cavern, illuminated only by neon orange light beams and rivers of boiling magma. Sweat immediately pours down his face. He groans that the insane heat is literally cooking him alive. Creeping toward the edge of a cliff, he tries to guess what kind of psycho boss is waiting for them in this inferno. Out of nowhere, a blinding, white-hot flash erupts. His pupils shrink in sheer terror. Before he can even blink, a devastating beam punches a fatal hole straight through his core. His HP drops to 0 in a violent splash of red, his face locked in absolute disbelief. Gasp! Si Chen jolts awake, violently snatching at the air. Sunlight pours into his bedroom as he bolts upright, hyperventilating. The terrifying reality sets in. He just got one-shotted. He did not even catch a glimpse of the boss. Sweating and totally mind-blown, he questions just how broken the power scaling on that second level really is. Just then, Si Yun yells through his bedroom door, nagging him to grab some breakfast. Dragging himself to the table, he does a double take, hyping up the massive spread of noodles and fresh fruit as a literal banquet. Tying her shoes, she drops a chore list: do the dishes and hang the laundry. Within 30 minutes, watching her speed-run her morning routine, he asks why she is rushing out the door when summer break is in full swing. She casually drops that she is heading to her summer gig. Si Chen frowns, completely thrown off, reminding her that he promised to handle the financial grind from now on. Flashing a radiant smile, she replies that since her big bro has finally hit the big leagues, there is no way she's letting herself fall behind. Plus, rotting in bed all summer just isn't her vibe anyway. The front door clicks shut as Si-yoon heads out, leaving her brother with a classic chore list. Water blasts over a ceramic bowl as Si Chen tackles the sink. Moments later, he tosses a damp gray tea onto the living room drying rack. His mind drifts to Xiao Yun. No matter what curveballs life throws at them, that girl has always stayed grinding with pure, unbreakable grit. His gaze lands on a framed desk photo. It's a snapshot of the two of them, flashing bright smiles and throwing up peace signs. Crouching down to get a better look, a soft smile touches his face. She might just be a kid, but she's always made him feel so incredibly grounded and loved. Suddenly, the nightmarish image of the towering demon king Wrath, with its grotesque thrashing tentacles, flashes behind his eyes. Si Chen knows the clock is ticking. Graduation means going to war with that and because of that brutal destiny, his days of watching over Xiao Yun like this are strictly numbered. She is literally the only piece of this world he actually cares about. But then, a wild realization hits him like a truck, making his eyes snap wide open. Tapping 2 fingers against his temple, a brilliant plan sparks to life. His eyes ignite with a piercing violet flare as a swirling, dark purple rift tears open the air right above him. A majestic white lion literally drops out of the void. Si Chen's jaw hits the floor, totally stunned by what he just pulled off. He actually did it. He dragged his contracted beast straight out of the dreamscape Devil Tower and dumped it right into his living room. The massive feline immediately vaults onto the sofa and goes absolutely feral on a tissue box. Shredding, watching the chaos unfold, Si Chen makes a call. Leo is going to be Xiao Yun's ultimate, undercover bodyguard while he's gone. A glowing stat card pops up, revealing the Phantom Spirit Lion King's broken abilities. Staring at his palm, Si Chen zeroes in on a cheat code skill called Astral Orbit Jump. This sick power acts like a live feed right through the beast's eyes. If anyone even breathes wrong in her direction, he can teleport straight to her location in a split second to wreck them. A memory hits him of a tiny Xiao Yun, giggling with pure joy as she showered affection on a stray white cat and a fluffy brown pup. A confident smirk spreads across his face. With his eyes still burning purple, he grips the glowing beast card tightly. Since she is such a massive animal lover, bringing home a bite-sized line. Out of nowhere, a massive metallic crash echoes from the kitchen. Si-Chen whips around, racing into the room only to freeze dead in his tracks. The sacred beast is casually munching on a ceramic dinner plate in the middle of a wrecked countertop. Yeah, his sister is totally going to be chill with this unhinged furball. Meanwhile, in a much darker part of the city, a brutally battered man collapses to his knees, clutching a shattered blue blade. Gasping for air, he stares upward in pure, unfiltered horror. Screaming at the shadowy figure to back off, he hysterically begs to know what kind of freak he is looking at. Before he can blink, a vicious crimson slash rips right through him. Blood streaks down his pale face. Eyes bulging with panic, he stammers out one last plea, just as glowing white threads violently hoist his body off the ground. A sinister red gauge fills up, as the shadowy nightmare literally consumes his life force. Cut to golden hour, where Si-Yun is dragging herself down the sidewalk, gripping 2 plastic bags. Looking absolutely drained, she lets out a heavy sigh of relief. Her shift is finally over. Pushing Boba on her feet for 8 hours straight has completely fried her energy. Pausing by a brick wall, she hopes her brother actually vibes with the drink she snagged for him. She then turns down a dead-silent, shadowed alleyway. Her footsteps halt. A sudden chill hits her as a voice slithers out from the darkness, smoothly noting that she finally showed up. Jin Duok Singh casually steps into the fading light, flexing a massive, absurdly expensive bouquet of crimson roses. Flashing a slick grin, he claims he's been waiting for her forever, pointing out how she totally bolted from campus the other day. Because she ghosted so fast, she completely missed his date proposal. But hey, he's playing it cool. He casually drops that he booked out the entire penthouse level of the Zifeng Tower just for them tonight. Unfazed by the flex, Xiao Yun cuts to the chase. How on earth did he find her? Smirking like he owns the world, Jin Duoxing arrogantly runs a hand through his hair. He casually name-drops his dad, the untouchable director of the first hospital. So pulling a few strings to track down her address? Absolute child's play. Si-Yun doesn't even glance at the roses. Brushing right past him, she hits him with cold, hard facts. They exist in 2 totally different universes. Without missing a beat, she orders him to drop the Stalker Act and never approach her again. The rejection snaps him. Jin Duoxing barks out in anger, his hand shooting out to ruthlessly grip her wrist, trapping her in place. His slick facade crumbles into pure rage. He spits out a furious demand, asking if she has any clue what it costs to lock down an entire floor at the Zifeng. He's already hyped this up to his entire crew, meaning if she bails now, it will make him look like an absolute clown. Si-Yun shoots daggers right into his eyes, her voice dripping with ice as she asks why she owes a guy like him any respect at all. She doesn't hold back, straight up calling out his creepy, stalker-level behavior outside her house. The word creepy hits a nerve, and Jin Duoxing's expression instantly morphs into something deeply toxic. He snarls, demanding to know who she thinks she is messing with. He played the nice guy, and she had the audacity to spit right in his face. Leaning in with a vile threat, he asks if she seriously thinks he couldn't completely ruin her in under 3 minutes if he wanted to. In a flash of pure girl boss energy, Si-Yun lunges and ruthlessly headbutts him square in the face. Leaving him reeling, she violently storms off, totally unbothered. Gripping her plastic grocery bags, she completely roasts Jin Duwook, telling him to go get a brain scan at his daddy's clinic. Si-Yun storms off, totally ticked off. She snaps at him to back off, straight up dropping that he completely killed her vibe today. Cut to the front of their apartment building, where a snowy white lion cub stares up with these massive, sparkly eyes. Si-Yun instantly scoops the tiny fluff ball high into the air. Her eyes practically morph into giant pink hearts. She squeals, totally shook, demanding to know where her brother scored such an insanely cute, magical beast. Smushing the little white lion right against her cheek, she beams like crazy, while literal hearts float around her head. Si-Chen just chills on a nearby chair, totally unbothered, and drops the reveal. The little guy's name is Leo. He casually mentions that she is officially on full-time pet duty, starting right now. Collapsing onto the couch with Leo in her arms, Si-Yoon is absolutely hype. She gasps. Suddenly, his smartphone buzzes with a sharp notification ping. Si-Chen glances down, his eyes instantly widening at the screen. The display flashes an official email from the Guild's Supervisory Bureau. Boom. After a super strict review, his application just got the green. The message wraps up with standard corporate talk, telling him to hit up the bureau for any questions and wishing him a solid life. Finally, Si-Chen thinks to himself, everything is falling right into place. Now, his master plan can kick off without a single hitch. Dropping his phone to his side, his gaze locks forward. Next up on the hit list, crushing that tiebreaker match. He swears to himself that he absolutely has to win this brawl in exactly 6 days. Fast forward exactly 6 days to June 24th, year 2157, the exact day of the make-or-break tiebreaker assessment. Clocking in at 3:10 p.m. on the rugged edges of Greenlight Forest, director Gong Xuan posts up right in front of a glowing, massive portal, ripped straight into the trunk of a giant tree. With tech gear and lab coat scientists swarming the zone, Gong Xuan barks out a command, demanding the attention of the two rival candidates. He drops the bomb that the school board voted to hold the ultimate showdown inside this untamed devil's cave. Radar confirms it is officially classified as a. Gong Xuan makes sure to remind them of their hardcore pact. They are diving into this exact same hellhole together for the final test. He hits them with a grim warning. The inside of a wild, unmapped cave is a total mystery, making the risk absolutely off the chart. The stakes for this exam are completely off the charts. With the danger level maxed out, the Academy actually hauled in 3 elite raid veterans straight from the Dongxin Nation. Acting as VIP proctors, these hardcore pros are just chilling in the tall grass, waiting for the chaos to kick off. First up is Ivan, a heavy hitter from the Empire Guild, flexing his skills as a C-rank flora chanter. Gong Xuan drops the briefing. These veterans will shadow the students deep into the cavern. Their mission? Keep the kids from getting flatlined, while dropping real-time scores on their combat flexes. Then there is Kai Yu from the Divine Eye Guild, rocking a rugged brown hat and a sleek orange face mask. She is a Deadeye C-rank nuclear shooter. Rounding out the trio is Yuta Sato from the Yinfang Guild. Dripped out in dreadlocks, a slick mustache, and pitch-black shades, he is a certified C-rank star warrior. The loudspeaker echoes across the grounds. The ultimate fate of these candidates rests entirely in the hands of this elite trio. No pressure, right? Watching this squad on a massive holographic screen, a shadowy figure strokes his chin, flashing a seriously sinister grin. His mind races with dark thoughts. He needs these proctors to play their parts perfectly and execute his twisted plan, all without leaving a single breadcrumb behind. The plot thickens. Cut to a VIP lounge, where Gonglin and Yuan Long are posted up next to a plush sofa. Vice Chairman Carl Cavendish is totally vibing on the cushions. Confused, Gonglin questions why Carl is even still hanging around campus. Pointing out that his itinerary wrapped up a whole 48 hours ago, Carl just smirks, firing back, asking what could possibly be more hyped than the showdown brewing right here. Leaning into that confident grin, Carl admits he simply could not dip out. It has been years since he caught a real, unfiltered clash between absolute prodigies. Down on the ground, director Gong Xuan holds his stance before a massive, violently swirling neon green dimensional rift. Thrusting his right hand into the blinding glow, he officially triggers the start of the gauntlet. His voice booms. Welcome to the National Awakener University class of 2157, Graduation Combat Assessment, one-on-one tiebreaker. He hypes up the main event, Zichen versus Gong Ting. Instantly, Zichen's eyes flare up with an intense, piercing golden aura. The countdown drops to 0. Stepping up to the plate, Zichen and Gong Ting plunge. The elite proctor trio trails right behind them, tailed closely by a slick, hovering drone streaming their every move. Scanning the bleak wasteland of withered timber, Caillou calls it out. The creepy vibes scream Flora-type Devil's Cave. Posting up behind her, Ivan casually waves an unlit cigarette, offering Yuta a quick hit to take the edge off. Yuta shoots him down instantly. Bro, we are literally grading a life-or-death final, and the live stream is definitely rolling. Out of nowhere, a jagged crimson pulse starts vibrating wildly in the center of Zichen's chest. Giant, blaring red. His brain short-circuits. Wait, this is literally the very first time the Devil Heart has ever triggered an alarm. Zichen is low-key stressing, realizing the Demon Heart has never, ever thrown up a red flag like this before in his life. And just like that, snap. The neon warning panels glitch out and vanish into thin air. Glancing into the shadows, a chilling thought hits him. Are top-tier bosses actually camping inside a garbage D-rank dungeon? Pushing deeper into the pitch-black woods, Gong Ting takes the vanguard, gripping his blade tight. Meanwhile, Si Chen strolls behind, hands shoved casually into his pockets. Perched on a jagged cliff above, the Proctor squad scopes out the trainees. One of them mutters how the thick, creeping fog is straight up suffocating. The boss of the group barks out a warning. Stay frosty, do not blink, and keep those kids locked in your sights. Bam! Out of nowhere, the solid stone beneath the students shatters with a deafening crack. A vile, neon-green abomination erupts from the dirt, blasting jagged shrapnel in every direction. The system interface tags the freak as a poison cage ant, a D-rank Flora archer. Gong Ting does not hesitate. His fingers lock, ripping the radiant blade from its scabbard. He lunges headfirst into the danger zone. Up on the ridge, an examiner praises the kid's insane reflexes, but he drops a grim reality check. Untamed dungeon freaks do not play by academy rules. He warns that these feral beasts are savage, lightning fast, and fight insanely dirty. Right on cue, the insect nightmare vaults into the sky. Channeling its Flora Archer tech, it unleashes a toxic volley, raining down a barrage of glowing, radioactive green venom bombs straight at Gong Ting. But Gong Ting is moving at Godspeed. Leaving a flashing, zigzagging trail of pure golden energy, he easily jukes the toxic artillery. Slashing his blazing weapon skyward in a wicked arc, he cleaves the hideous bug clean down the middle, sticking the landing like a boss. He levels his shimmering blade at eye level. With zero hesitation, he violently thrusts the sword forward, impaling the ant's severed upper half right through its chest. Time for the ultimate flex. He triggers his heavy-hitting nuclear warrior skill, Blaze Blade Barrage. An apocalyptic shockwave of blinding orange and yellow hellfire blasts out of the steel, completely nuking the monster into dust. Up on the ridge, the elite trio watches in dead silence as the fallout of ash and smoke sweeps past them. Back at the base, instructors are absolutely glued to the giant blue monitor, locked onto Zichen. Sinking deep into his leather chair, Carl Cavendish turns and grills Steven. What do you think Zichen is actually hunting for out there in those feral woods? Flashing a knowing smirk, Steven leans in and starts laying out his wildest theory about Zichen's true endgame. He's prowling through the woods, hunting for a massive AoE strike to wipe the floor with every single enemy at once. Si Chen plants his boot dead center on a massive tangled web of rotting tree roots, locking his eyes on the gnarly core below. He throws his arm up, clenching his fist as raw, blinding yellow electricity crackles around his knuckles. His eyes flare up with that same lethal neon glow. Gotcha, he mutters, finally spotting the weak point. With a savage thrust, he spikes a massive lightning bolt straight into the dirt. The high-voltage current rips through the soil and dead wood, detonating into an absolute beast of a yellow lightning pillar, tearing out of the earth. The sheer, kinetic force of the blast shreds the terrain to pieces, launching a whole swarm of ugly green ant monsters sky high. He's going straight for the damn hive, the examiner screams, totally losing it. Is this kid out of his absolute mind? He violently warns that the nest is crawling with lethal D-rank threats, and Si Chen's reckless flex is about to get the entire squad wiped out. Gong Ting stares in disbelief, wondering if this dude is seriously about to solo the whole swarm. Without hesitating, Si Chen triggers his hyper-lethal lightning assassin skill. He launches forward like a literal missile, blurring into a high-speed zigzag trajectory across the chaotic battlefield. He relentlessly snipes the giant green ants, one by one. Blinding strobes of neon yellow light detonate with every single bone-crushing kick and heavy punch he lands on the beasts. With one final, earth-shattering combo, Si Chen instantly vaporizes the entire mob. He sticks a flawless superhero landing, gripping a crackling blade of pure, while shredded chunks of bug guts literally rain down from the sky. The three proctors just stand there, absolutely gagged and speechless. The proctor with dreads slowly slides his shades down the bridge of his nose. What in the actual hell did he just pull off? He stammers. They're completely shook. Si Chen is officially ranked as a measly E-tier scrub, yet he just nuked a massive wave of D-rank monsters without breaking a sweat. Panic sets in over how to evaluate this freak of nature. There's literally zero chance they can justify slapping him with a low grade now. Sweating bullets, the proctors huddle up and furiously whisper, desperately fishing for any toxic excuse to dock his points, calling his savage combat style way too reckless, painfully one-dimensional, or just spamming the... Meanwhile, back in the observation room, Principal Yuan Long bursts into a booming laugh, pointing at Carl Cavendish, and shouting that he called it from day one. Standing right beside them, Gonglin smirks, noting that this wild clash just skyrocketed the exam's entertainment value to a whole new level. Clenching his fist with hyped anticipation, he declares he is dying to see what kind of counterplay Cole will pull out against this insane flex. But then, bam! The massive blue live feed violently glitches out into heavy static. A blaring red, "Signal lost" error box pops up, leaving the big bosses totally clueless and confused. Cut to Sector 16, right outside the dungeon zone. The gigantic cave entrance literally blinks out of existence. Director Gong Shuai freezes, staring. "The damn portal just vanished," he roars in pure panic. Off to the side, a stressed-out tech guy is furiously tapping his monitors, sweating out of his mind. Looking up at his boss with total dread, the technician admits they are completely flying blind right now. He frantically explains that the mainframe spammed a bunch of fatal signal errors before just completely flatlining into a brick. Hearing that nightmare update, Director Gong Shuai barks at his squad to hustle up and dial headquarters this exact second. He screams, dreading that an absolute... Meanwhile, deep inside the pitch-black dungeon, Si Chen suddenly hits the brakes. He snaps his head back, completely weirded out by a haunting, magical melody drifting through the trees. Gong Ting squints at the glowing aura, looking totally baffled. And then, a super unsettling, creepy sound starts echoing all around the squad. "Yo, is anyone else catching that vibe?" Kailu asks, shivering. Yuta Sato nods grimly. "Yeah, I hear it too, man." He mutters that it sounds like some totally twisted, alien symphony. The blood instantly drains from Si Chen's face. True, paralyzing terror sets in the millisecond he recognizes that exact, terrifying sound. "No shot, that's Demon King Wrath's voice," he screams internally, his mind racing. Why the hell is that monster broadcasting inside? He knows for a fact this exact demon boss wasn't scheduled to spawn for another 3 whole years. Out of nowhere, ear-splitting alarms start going off. Aggressive crimson warning screens spam violently right behind Si Chen's skull. The system is flashing an emergency alert. Critical threat level. Creature detected. His own demon heart is practically doing backflips in his chest, screeching a massive, primal warning to run for his life. The terrifying realization hits him like a truck. There is something lurking directly behind his back. In a cinematic sweep of the foggy forest, massive, thudding footsteps start shaking the earth. A sickening, guttural laugh ripples through the dark woods. Kailu is literally shaking, terrified of whatever nightmare fuel is stalking them in the shadows. Deep inside the suffocating thick fog, 2 massive, neon-pink eyes suddenly pierce the darkness. A split second later, a colossal beast stomps fully into the clearing. And it's a straight-up monstrous, giant praying mantis. The mutated bug arrogantly welcomes the squad, openly roasting them for blindly walking right into its kill zone. Yuta Sato's jaw practically hits the floor. He's totally mind-blown that this giant freak of nature is actually spitting fluent English. The math quickly adds up in his head. Any beast with vocal cords is guaranteed to be a ridiculously overpowered, top-tier C-rank boss. Glancing past the towering insect demon towards Si Chen and Gong Ting, the entire squad is paralyzed with dread. They're frantically questioning how a god-tier threat like this inside a basic, low-level D-rank dungeon. They all silently accept the brutal truth. This apex predator is going to massacre every single student here. Spotting the catastrophic danger, Yuta Sato doesn't even flinch. He fiercely vaults to the front line, manifesting a massive, heavy-duty glowing pink battle axe right into his grip. He plants his boots firmly into the dirt, shielding Si Chen and Gong Ting with his own body. He barks an alpha command, ordering the entire out of nowhere. The colossal bug monstrosity whips its razor-sharp scythe arm at blinding speed, cleanly severing Utasato's hand in a flash of gore. The dismembered limb launches into the sky, fingers still death-gripping the neon pink axe. Caillou and Ivan freeze, absolutely paralyzed by the brutal ambush. The beast rockets forward, moving so absurdly fast it leaves nothing but a distorted afterimage in its wake. With a sickening crunch, the monster brutally impales Gong Ting, driving its massive blade straight through his chest. A gruesome spray of crimson erupts into the air. As Gong Ting throws his head back in agonizing torment, the creature sadistically vows that every single one of them is going to perish. But throwing in the towel? Not an option for him. Channeling pure adrenaline, he retaliates with a savage downward slash. The giant bug's eyes blow wide open in sheer shock. Bam! Gong Ting plants a devastating kick square into the beast's torso, launching the massive creature skidding backward across the dusty trail. Gong Ting tilts his head with a dark smirk, declaring that since the freak drew first blood, the rules of combat priority dictate this fight is 100% his. His eyes flare with terrifying intensity as he shoots Si Chen a deadly glare, strictly warning him to stay the hell out of his way. Peering past Gong Ting, Si Chen activates his analytical abilities to assess the distant threat. A glowing holographic prompt materializes right above the monster's head. The system initially clocks this lethal beast as a mid-tier C-rank threat, but then the stats update, revealing it's actually an even deadlier high-tier C-rank monstrosity. In the background, Ivan scrambles down the jagged hillside, while Caillou screams her lungs out at Gong Ting. She frantically begs him to get immediate medical attention. She pleads with him to abort the exam and bail right now, insisting this monster is way out of his league. Clamping his hand over his gaping chest wound, Gong Ting bluntly drops a single word: no. Si Chen watches in awe, realizing Gong Ting is literally using the scorching heat of his own fire magic to cauterize his gushing wound. Thick smoke billows from his sizzling flesh as he tightens his grip on his blade. In a heartbeat, the weapon erupts into a blinding, blazing inferno. He roars into the cavern that this deathmatch doesn't end until one of them is a corpse. The colossal insect just glares back, its massive, unblinking pink eyes locked on its prey. Launching himself high into the air, Gong Ting grips his blazing broadsword with both hands and unleashes a ferocious, earth-shattering strike. Meanwhile, outside, a striking man with flowing white hair stares deadpan at the solid rock wall where the dungeon ends. Flanked by heavily armed guards, he coolly notes that this isn't the first time they've witnessed a portal vanish into thin air. He drops a chilling fact. This phenomenon means a highly intelligent mastermind is pulling the strings from deep within the dungeon. This calculated beast intentionally left the front door wide open, baiting unsuspecting humans inside, like fish in a barrel. Once the prey is secured, it slams the trap shut. This cool-headed strategist is Silas Lin, the legendary leader of the Imperial Guild's elite king squad. Right behind him, director Gong Shua is absolutely losing his mind, frantically begging Silas for a game plan. Sweat pouring down his face, he desperately asks if there's any possible way to rip the gateway back open, terrified because a guy named Cole is still stuck inside the nightmare. Silas's expression turns dead serious. He states plainly that there's only one viable method to force the exit to respawn. Someone currently trapped in that hellhole has to hunt down and slaughter the dungeon boss, a terrifying entity known as the Overlord. A nervous, jittery smile creeps onto director Gong Shua's face. Catching a glimmer of hope, he rationalizes that since this is classified as a low-level D-rank zone, the boss shouldn't be anything worse than a C-rank beast, which means the squad inside actually has a fighting chance. But Silas immediately crushes that pipe dream. He coldly drops the bomb that the D-rank energy reading was a complete and utter lie. The Overlord was intentionally suppressing its monstrous aura to hack their scanners and lure them in. He connects the terrifying dots. This exact dungeon is undeniably the very same death trap that swallowed up all the other missing magic fighters. Director Gong Shuo breaks into a cold sweat as the horrifying reality finally crashes down on him. Staring at the blank wall, Silas delivers the ultimate death sentence. They aren't looking at a D-rank joke.